Chapter 1024. Then, did Nuwa and Fushi leave behind a message? If the fated person comes, where should this sacred relic go? Lin Muyu asked a question that she was very concerned about. This? Luo Qinji pondered for a moment and said, I don't know either, but there are many rare treasures in this sacred relic. However, they are often coveted by people, and there were even a few times when they were almost stolen. Martial uncle, the Shenyuan sword in your hand was stolen from the sacred relic more than 1,000 years ago. Over the years, the dragon has chased away countless people who coveted it, but there are still some people with extraordinary cultivation who left this place alive. So, if martial uncle permits, please take the treasures in the sacred relic and my mission will be considered completed. Let me see the treasures first, how about it? Shi Yin said with a smile. Yes, yes. Luo Qinji nodded respectfully. He shook the handle of the wheelchair in his hand, and the wheelchair immediately flew into the air. Luo Qinji held a strange compass in his hand and turned it towards the stone wall in front of him. Immediately, starlight fell on the stone wall, and as if something strange was summoned, the stone wall slowly trembled. The next moment, a pair of giant arms separated from the stone wall and stretched out, and on the arms was a dazzling jade zither. Wow! Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were instantly stunned. This jade zither was very exquisite and dazzling. They had never seen such an extraordinary 7-stringed zither in their lives. Moreover, it looked very antique and was obviously quite old. What is this? Lin Muyu asked. Luo Qinji said with a smile, this zither is called the Nuwa zither. It was made by goddess Nuwa using the trunk of a divine tree that was hundreds of millions of years old, and the strings were made from the whiskers of the deep-sea saint dragon. The Nuwa zither is indestructible, and when it is played, the sound it makes can be used to deliver all living beings from suffering, or it can be used to confuse people's minds, or it can be used to kill people invisibly. It all depends on the state of mind of the player. An item left behind by the exalted deity Nuwa. Lin Muyu frowned. I only remember that the treasure left behind by the exalted deity Nuwa is called the Nuwa stone. It was passed down when she mended the heavens. Luo Qinji couldn't help but laugh. Those are just legends passed down from generation to generation. Although there is such a thing as the Nuwa stone, there is no such magical power. In comparison, the Nuwa zither is the real holy object. It is comparable to the magical power of the Shenyuan sword. It is also one of the most precious treasures in the Star Spirit Valley. Lin Muyu smiled happily and rose into the air. She opened her hand and sucked the Nuwa zither over. When the zither landed in her hand, she could feel an honest and sincere aura. It was indeed a good treasure. Beside her, Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were already blurred. She had been proficient in zither and chess since she was young. Ever since the 7-stringed zither left behind by her mother, Su Yun, she had never played it again. But now that she saw the Nuwa zither, her heart was instantly stirred. When Lin Muyu saw this, she smiled and said, Senior Luo Qinji, can I give this Nuwa zither to someone else? Of course you can. All the treasures in the divine remains are for you, martial uncle. You have the right to do whatever you want with them. Very well. Lin Muyu turned and handed the Nuwa zither to her. She smiled and said, Xiaoyin, it belongs to you from now on. Qin Yin's heart was beating fast. She murmured, but brother Yu, this is a holy object of the divine remains. How can it be given away so casually? It can't be given away casually. But it is not given to you casually. It is given after careful consideration. Lin Muyu's words were appropriate. She knew how to conduct herself. Qin Yin smiled and picked up the Nuwa zither. Suddenly, there seemed to be a spiritual fluctuation between her and the Nuwa zither. She could not help but hang in the air in shock. The Nuwa zither shone brightly. Streaks of starlight flowed on the zither. It was as if it had finally found its true master after waiting for thousands of years. Shi Yin smiled and said, Xin, congratulations. You have grasped another treasure. Sister Haiyan, what do you mean? Little fool, the Nuwa zither is a treasure. Have you forgotten your special ability? The eyes of blazing light, the aura field, and the great silent sound. Using the Nuwa zither and the eyes of blazing light, you can launch the most powerful spatial vibration attack in the world. This is the legendary great silent sound technique. I don't need to teach you this. You can master it. Qin Yin was stunned. She nodded and said, yes. Lin Muyu suddenly thought of the demon emperor Nushi in the forest of no return. Her weapon was also a zither. When she launched the sound attack, it was fatal. However, her aptitude was limited. Her godhood could not be compared to Qin Yin. Moreover, Qin Yin had the eyes of blazing light. She was a natural controller of the realm. Then, when she launched the sound attack, it would become the most powerful spatial law attack in the world, just like Shi Yan said. Seeing that Qin Yin loved the Nuwa Zither so much, Lin Muyu smiled and asked, "Senior, do you have any other treasures? Time is of the essence. We cannot stay here for too long." "Yes." Luo Tianji then spun the compass again. Suddenly, another huge arm extended from the rock wall. On it was an extremely dignified and exquisite armor. It was a deep red color and suffused with a faint blood-red glow. It was dignified and filled with a murderous aura. "What is this?" Lin Muyu liked it from the bottom of her heart. "This is the Qiyu armor." Luo Qinji thought for a while and said, "Legend has it that during the battle between the gods and demons, the Xianyuan sword could not cut through this Qiyu armor even after hundreds of slashes. It only left a few marks on it. The material of the Qiyu armor is still a mystery. It is said that it is a strange iron that grew from the bones of the demon god Qiyu. Then it was formed into this indestructible armor. I saw the scene when you fought with the Qiyu armor. If you wear the Qiyu armor, you will not be afraid of the Qiyu dragon's wind saw." Lin Muyu glanced at it. The Qiyu armor was divided into upper body armor, leg guards, knee guards, wrist guards, and so on. It was indeed a precious treasure, especially since she had just gained a foothold in the 64 domains and was bound to experience many battles between the gods in the future. One Qiyu armor was enough to give her an absolute advantage. Moreover, the design of this armor was for men, so it was not suitable for women like Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. Hence, she was the most suitable one. Hence, she asked without hesitation, "Can I have it?" "Of course." Luo Qinji couldn't help but smile. "You are joking, martial uncle. This treasure was originally prepared for you." "Good." Lin Muyu was overjoyed. Her weapon was the Shenyuan sword. As for armor, only the Qiyu armor could match the Shenyuan sword. It was just right. There had never been an armor that was truly to her liking. She took off the Qiyu armor and held it in her hands. It was not as heavy as she had imagined. It was indeed a treasure. After taking off the cloak and putting on the Qiyu armor, she put on the dark green cloak again. Suddenly her entire temperament changed. In addition to Lin Muyu's originally handsome and elegant appearance, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and even Shi Yan were stunned. Just as Luo Qianji said, this Qiyu armor was simply tailor-made for Lin Muyu. "What do you think, martial uncle?" Luo Qianji asked. "It fits me perfectly." Lin Muyu waved her arms in delight. She realized that the armor did not affect her movements at all. It was indeed a good treasure. It must be the existence of the Qiyu armor that allowed Qiyu to fight 10,000 rounds with the Yellow Emperor. After tying up the cloak, Lin Muyu asked, "Then, what other treasures are there in the divine remains?" Luo Qianji said, "There are a total of 4 extremely rare treasures in the sacred remains: the Shenyuan sword, the Nuwa Zither, and the Qiyu armor. The last one is a divine weapon known as the Hoi Bao, but this Hoi Bao was stolen from the sacred remains more than 7,000 years ago. After asking around for a long time, I finally found out that this Hoi Bao was hidden in the headquarters of the Heaven-Devouring Realm." "The Heaven-Swallowing Domain?" Lin Muyu frowned. "Yes." Luo Qianji's face showed a trace of hatred. "Back then, the people of the Heaven-Swallowing Domain broke into the Star Spirit Valley and destroyed the other 2 mechanical beasts I painstakingly made. They severely injured the Zai Dragon, smashed the right hall of the Divine Remains and stole the Hoi Bao. Until now, I have not been able to get it back. Martial uncle, it's all my fault for not guarding the sacred treasure left by the exalted immortals." "No, it's not your fault." Lin Muyu waved her hand, a faint coldness in her eyes. "You've tried your best. It's the people of the Heaven-Swallowing Domain who are too strong. If it were someone else, the Heaven-Swallowing Domain would have already destroyed the Star Spirit Valley." Luo Qianji took a deep breath and said, "My greatest wish in this life is to take back the Shenyuan sword and the Hoi Bao. Now that the Shenyuan sword is in your hands, only the Hoi Bao is left. If I cannot take back the Hoi Bao, I, Luo Qianji, will carry the guilt of facing the exalted immortals for the rest of my life." "Don't worry." Lin Muyu patted Luo Qianji's shoulder lightly and said, "Senior Luo, I will naturally take back the Hoi Bao from the Heaven-Swallowing Domain. It may take some time, but I will definitely get it back." "Yes, thank you, Uncle Master." Luo Qianji took another deep look at the great hall of the divine relic. There were still many treasures laid out inside. He said, "Uncle Master, apart from the 4 great treasures, there are still many treasures in the divine relic. Although they are not as precious as the Shenyuan sword and the Nuwa Zither, they are still treasures that can guard a region in the mortal world. Why don't Uncle Master take them all away?" Lin Muyu was slightly taken aback. She said, Uncle Master and Jilong have guarded the divine relic for so many years. How can I bear to take them all away in one night? In my opinion, since the divine relic is a relic left behind by the exalted immortals, let it exist forever. I can't be greedy and take everything away. How about this? The Star Spirit Valley is a territory of Dragon City. I will send people to guard the periphery of the Star Spirit Valley and re-establish it as a forbidden area. With the strength of the entire Dragon City, we will guard the divine relic together with you. What do you think, Senior? Thank you, Uncle Master. Luo Qinji nodded and said, then I have nothing to worry about. I can forge a second Jilong. Alright. Lin Muyu's heart moved. Senior Luo, do you have any extra wind origin stones? Can you give me some and teach me how to use them? Luo Qinji could not help but smile. Since Uncle Master has asked, it is a small matter. I will naturally obey. Chapter 1025. The war was over and Star Spirit Valley was restored to its former tranquility and peace. A bonfire rose outside. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi set up a pot and started cooking fish soup. As for the fish, it was not the flying divine fish. Qin Yin caught it from the river not far away. The two beautiful girls stirred the firewood and were responsible for this not too sumptuous dinner. On the side, Lin Muyu and Luo Qinji sat on the ground and respectfully asked Luo Qinji about the principles of the wind stone. Luo Qinji held a medium-sized wind stone about the size of a person's arm and placed it on the ground. He said, Uncle, look. This is an ordinary stone that has not activated the power of the wind stone. It can be touched by human hands and there is no need to worry about being strangled by the wind blades. But if this is also the case, he suddenly opened his palm and a stream of vital energy seeped into the stone and quickly triggered the core of the stone. Suddenly, small wind blades floated around the stone. Swoosh! A leaf instantly turned into powder the moment it fell on the stone. It was clear how extraordinary the power of the wind stone was. Luo Tianji smiled and said, every piece of raw stone has a core. You can activate and deactivate this core through external forces. As long as you have a little bit of power, you can understand it. Martial Uncle, you can try to deactivate the core of this raw stone. Oh! Lin Muyu nodded her head and opened her palm. Instantly, her supreme god force turned into rays of light that seeped into the stone, dissecting the veins and composition of the stone. When Lin Muyu's power entered the core, she instantly felt a tyrannical and violent energy field. That's right, this was the core of the wind origin stone, and the method to close it was very simple. She just had to cut off the energy field from the outside world. Lin Muyu left behind a stream of divine power to seal the energy field. Instantly, the raw stone became harmless to humans and animals. It is indeed simple. Haha, Uncle, you are smart. Luo Tianji also smiled. Lin Muyu asked again, then, how do you use the wind stone to form the wind saw? This is more profound. Luo Tianji said, Uncle, do you understand the 8 trigrams? Yes, I know a thing or two. The 8 trigrams are divided into Qian, Kun, Sun, Zhen, Ken, Li, Zhen, and Dui, which reinforce and restrain each other. The operating principle of the wind raw stone is the same as the 8 trigrams. At least 8 wind raw stones are needed to facilitate the birth of the wind saw. The power of these 8 wind raw stones is endless and circulates. The stronger the power of the raw stones, the more powerful the wind saw will be. Oh, Senior, could you explain it in detail? Luo Tianji smiled slightly. He took out a half-burnt wooden stick from the pile of firewood. Soon after, he drew a diagram on the ground. Yes. While chewing on the soft steamed bun and tasting the delicious fish soup, Luo Tianji sat there with mixed feelings in his heart. Looking at Lin Muyu and the others, he was thinking how good it would be if he could have a few children like this. It would be 1,000,000 times better than guarding here for 10,000 years in the cold cave. On the side, Qin Yin, who had finished her meal, placed the new zither across her legs and lightly played the strings. Suddenly, the graceful Qin Yin's voice echoed in the valley. It was a song of autumn geese that had not been played for a long time. She would take it as a way to help everyone after the meal. The boundless heaven and earth, the majestic mountains and rivers, the cold moonlight shone into the battlefield, the rice river was green, the cool breeze was blowing, the empire's warriors went to the death of the nation, killing all the jackals and wolves. A life of frivolity, who will soothe my wounds? The road home can no longer be seen, longing to wear out one's eyes, only to sigh at the high mountains and long rivers unhindered in all directions, forever defending the nation. What harm is there in my soul returning to the ends of the earth? Where will the warrior whose battle robe is broken be buried? Autumn geese, Please bring my soul back to my hometown." After the song, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were red. Lin Muyu also felt a little sour in her heart. She had left the empire for a year. How could she not miss the land where she lived for more than 10 years? She did not miss Feng Jixing, Chuyao, Jin Xiaotang and the others who stayed there. This was something she had to do. Only with great power could she guard the continent forever. That night, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and the others left Star Spirit Valley. After meeting Feng Zhanlin, Ma Qilin and the others, they told them everything about Star Spirit Valley. Dragon City sent 5 emperor gods and 20 divine kings to guard the periphery of Star Spirit Valley. They would take turns every half a month. The next day, Lin Muyu personally escorted the few chefs to Star Spirit Valley. He was most worried that the chefs would be eaten by the flying fish. That would be too evil. Fortunately, the Astral Spirit Valley was no longer what it used to be. The flying fish of the ghost and divine had already been restrained by Luo Tianji in the cave. All they had to do was catch wild beasts to feed them. A few god emperors stood guard outside the cave respectfully. When Lin Muyu brought chef and a large amount of vegetables and meat into the valley, Luo Tianji's dull eyes actually lit up a little. Life in Star Spirit Valley was really too boring. It was rare for it to be so lively. In this way, Luo Tianji could also focus on studying the Mahist sex mechanisms and forging the second dragon. On the third day, Lin Muyu and the others left Star Spirit Valley and returned to the Cave of Gods and Demons to continue cultivating. Shattered Cauldron Realm. The flames of war burned fiercely in the south. Yu City. This once prosperous city had become a wasteland. Lu Yen personally led an army of 80,000 soldiers to sweep through the city of Yu. The southern city wall of the city was almost razed to the ground. The army swept through the city and conquered it within 3 days as if they were crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. In the sky, the dragon riders circled. On the ground, the cavalry had already split into many groups and broke into the city to kill the scattered Qin Kingdom's army. Thud, 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 the horses' hooves stepped on the spring soil. Surrounded by people, Lu Yen entered the city. The entire southern city wall had collapsed. There was mud and blood everywhere. Also, there were scattered purple Yinhua flags of the Qin Empire. Lord Commander. In the distance, a group of soldiers dragged a corpse over. One of the Kiliarchs said, "Lord Commander, we have found the corpse of Man Sun." He was known as General Sun. He was one of the few famous generals under Jianghu. It was this person who led less than 10,000 people to resist our attack for a whole 3 days. He's already dead? Lu Yin frowned. Yes, he died in the chaotic battle. Cut off his head to inspire the army. Yes. With one strike, Man Sun's head was pierced high up in the spear. The centurion holding the spear galloped on the streets of the city excitedly, shouting loudly, "Man Sun has died in battle. Why aren't the rest of the gang surrendering to us? Man Sun has died in battle. Why haven't the rest surrendered?" In the distance, a group of children stood in the spring rain. Their bodies were drenched, but they stared blankly at the head impaled on the spear. They didn't know what had happened. They only knew that someone had died and the city had been breached. "Commander, are we going to massacre the city?" a captaincy asked. Lu Yen frowned. "No, we don't have time to massacre the city. Let everyone eat and sleep for a night. Once they're well rested, we will attack Shangyang City tomorrow. As long as we conquer Shangyang City, this Mingshan province will belong to our Blackstone Empire." Yes. Wait a moment. Lu Yen suddenly raised his arm and said, "The idiots of Yu City actually dared to try to stop a chariot. They must be punished. Send people to capture 5,000 civilians. Tonight we will kill them all in the central plaza. This will chill the morale of the army. This will make the dogs of the great Qin Empire not dare to look at the war flag of our Blackstone Empire in the eye." Yes. Captain C thought for a moment and said, "Commander, our follow-up troops have arrived. They are the tens of thousands of Iha Nation's troops led by Qin Yi. What do that motley crew want to do? They want to enter the city to rest." That's fine. Lu Yan's lips curled up. This Mingshan province was originally Qin Yi's territory. Tonight we will kill and punish them. Invite Qin Yi, Qin Huan, and the others to attend the ceremony. I want them to see how their people are slaughtered. Yes. Chapter 1026. It rained frequently in the south and at dusk, a fine drizzle poured down without end. When the veil of night descended, the soldiers of the Darkstone Empire lit up torches and illuminated the entire square of Yu City. On the square were a few thousand unarmed commoners of Yu City, and all of them had furious expressions as they cursed at the army of the Darkstone Empire. Thud, 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 Amidst the clattering of hooves, a familiar flag appeared before everyone's eyes. It was the flag of the Yihe nation. Under Lu Yan's invitation, Qin Yi and Qin Huan had come to witness this massacre. Qin Yi was already very old. His originally grizzled hair was now completely white. His hair was so soft that even the pinewood hairpin couldn't hold it in. He didn't bring many people with him, only 2 captaincy and a dozen kiliarchs. "Commander, be careful." A captaincy carefully helped Qin Yi down from his horse. When Qin Yi's boots landed on the rein, he staggered and almost lost his balance. "Father." Qin Huan hurriedly supported him, his face pale. "Commander, you're here." Lu Yan laughed heartily as he walked forward and cupped his hands. "We've been waiting for you for a long time." Qin Yi glanced at the commoners on the square and the elites of the sea and mountain army who were ready to go. He had already guessed what was going on and said, "Commander Lu Yan invited us here. I wonder what orders he has for us." No, there are no orders." Lu Yan waved his hand and smiled. "Yu City has obstructed us for many days. Now that it has been destroyed, my Blackstone Empire's soldiers have fought bravely. As their commander, I have to commend them. For true warriors, there is no reward more fitting than a massacre. These people of Yu City are stubborn and want to fight us to the death. I'll let them know the consequences of trying to stop a chariot. The Yihe nation is our ally, so it's only natural that we come to watch. Commander, please tell us if there are any flaws in our ocean and mountain army's cavalry formation." As he spoke, Lu Yan raised his arm and shouted, "Prepare to charge." In the distance, armored cavalrymen mounted their horses. They raised their shields and spears, while the horses stomped their hooves as if they were anticipating a massacre. "Charge!" Lu Yan suddenly dropped his arm. The sound of hooves thundered, and the sharp edges of spears and swords gleamed coldly under the light of the fire, making people feel like they were in a harsh winter even though it was a spring day. Among the crowd, the commoners were in a state of panic. Suddenly, a man wearing a low-ranking civil official uniform rushed towards Qin Yi, Qin Huan and the others and shouted, "Great Commander, help! Commander-in-Chief, I'm an official of the Yihe nation. I'm Zhang Jun from the rearguard commandery of Bailing City. Commander-in-Chief, save me. Young Prince, save me." It was as if Zhang Jun had seen a life-saving straw. He crazily led a group of people and charged towards Qin Yi, Qin Huan and the others. The Yihe nation had once flourished and Qin Yi, the commander, would definitely be able to save his life. Unfortunately, Qin Yi turned his face away, unable to bear to see the scene before his eyes. "Back off." A group of shield-wielding heavy infantry used their shields to push Zhang Jun and the others away, and even brandished their broadswords in a frenzy. "Commander-in-Chief! Commander-in-Chief!" Despair began to pile up on Zhang Jun's face. Amidst a miserable howl, his left arm was chopped off by a heavy infantry, and fresh blood splattered everywhere. After retreating several steps, his entire body trembled, and the sharp edge of a lance pierced through his chest. It was a black iron lance commonly used by the heavy cavalry of the Blackstone Empire. That heavy cavalry with sharp eyes and quick reflexes spurted his horse past Zhang Jun, grabbing the handle of the lance and pulling it out of Zhang Jun's chest. For a moment, blood and internal organs splattered everywhere. Plop. Zhang Jun weakly knelt on the ground, but his gaze remained fixed in the direction of Qin Yi and Qin Huan until he lay down perfectly straight, becoming a corpse that was gradually cooling down. Qin Yi looked at the dead Zhang Jun with a calm expression, seemingly without the slightest sorrow or joy. Meanwhile, Qin Huan clenched his fists tightly. How could a hot-blooded person like him endure this kind of torture? He clenched his teeth and said, "Commander Lu Yan, these commoners are only unarmed farmers and craftsmen. Why must you be so ruthless? Commander, please be lenient. Is Young Highness pleading for this group of rebels?" Lu Yan looked at him and faintly smiled. "Is that so?" You can say that," Qin Huan said in a low voice. "Don't give me that." Lu Yan sneered. "Was Young Highness this kind of benevolence when you controlled half of the empire? I'm afraid not. As the saying goes, the merciful cannot command an army. Young Highness should understand such a simple truth. The people of the Qin Empire are like weeds on the ground, lowly and tenacious. If we don't uproot them now, they will soon take root and sprout, smelt iron and forge weapons, and become the enemy of my Blackstone Empire. Young Highness need not plead for leniency. I, Lu Yan, know what to do. But, don't say any more unless Young Highness wants to become one of them." Lu Yan waved his hand and smiled. "The Commander-in-Chief is an outstanding talent of Lingnan. Although I, Lu Yan, am ruthless, I still want to leave a bloodline for the Lingnan Qin family. I hope Young Highness knows what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Qin Huan was startled and didn't say anything else. Lu Yen was someone who would do what he said. He was not just an ordinary kind of ruthlessness. At this time, Lu Yan's advisor, Bailey Yen, walked forward in a black robe and respectfully cupped his hands at Qin Yi. I am Bailey Yen, greeting the Commander-in-Chief of the Yihe Nation. Qin Yi nodded. Mister, you don't have to be so courteous. If you have any orders, just say them. Then I won't beat around the bush. The Haitian army has been attacking Yu City for days and has suffered heavy casualties. The soldiers need rest, so I would like to ask the Commander-in-Chief to lead the Yihe Nation's army of 100,000 to open a path in front and attack Xiangyang City like lightning. If we can take Xiangyang City before Xiangyu is prepared, it will be a great achievement. Qin Yi's eyes couldn't help but turn cold. Mr. Bailey, are you planning to let the Yihe Nation's army attack Xiangyang City first? That's right. Bailey Yen smiled faintly, but you don't need to worry, Commander-in-Chief. The Blackstone Empire's army of 100,000 will be arriving soon. They will hold the line for you from the rear. If you can't take Xiangyang City, we will naturally take your place. Qin Yi's heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. He felt like he was being roasted over a fire. Bailey Yen wanted to use someone else to do his dirty work, but there was nothing he could do. He was being controlled at every step and had no control over himself. After a while, Qin Yi cupped his hands and said, I will solemnly obey the Commander-in-Chief. However, I hope that you can prepare all the provisions, weapons and war horses that the Yihe Nation needs. Don't worry, Commander-in-Chief. I will naturally prepare everything. The Haitian army will depart tomorrow morning, so I hope that you will immediately lead the army to attack. Speed is the most important thing in war. We cannot give Xiangyu too much time to prepare. Yes, Qin Yi's face was pale and his aged body was slightly stooped. He didn't even look half as imposing as the Commander-in-Chief of the Yihe Nation, Qin Yi. The sounds of fighting and the screams of misery gradually came to a stop. Just like that, the 5,000 citizens of Yu City had all become sacrifices to the butcher's knife. To the Blackstone Empire's army, which was known for their savagery and cruelty, this was a common occurrence. Given that they had sufficient provisions, it was already good enough that they didn't eat people. As for the faint sounds of women crying and the shouts of looting, they turned a deaf ear to them. Yu City was less than 100 kilometers away from Xiangyang City. Even infantry soldiers would be able to reach it in a day and a night. Qin Yi didn't know what the fate of the Yihe Nation's final army was, but at this moment he regretted it. He regretted killing his older brother, Qin Jin, and dividing the world into two. However, he only had one choice, and once he made it, there was no turning back. Qin Yi knew that neither he nor the Yihe Nation had a path of retreat, so he could only continue forward. Even if there was a steep cliff in front of him, he could only blame himself if he fell and his bones were crushed. At the east of Xiangyang City, the Darkstone Empire's army in the city streaked towards Xiangyang City in an endless stream while the cavalry at the front had already set up camp less than 2.5 kilometers away from Xiangyang City. It was taboo for the cavalry at the front to advance rashly. However, this powerful army was led by the Darkstone Empire's dragon riders, Fu Yun. The few tens of dragon riders circling in the air were enough to make the imperial army of the Great Qin Empire in Xiangyang City tremble with fear. Xiangyu had given the order to close the gates and not engage in battle, to defend the city to the death and wait for reinforcements. Thus, Fu Yun could only wait for Lu Yan's army to join forces with him. After all, he wasn't that arrogant to attack Xiangyang City alone. Xiangyu and the others in the city weren't to be trifled with either. Which one of them hadn't fought in the wind and rain for close to a decade? At dusk, the entire Fu Yun's camp seemed to be dyed with a layer of blood. The dragon riders had already settled down in the camp, and an endless stream of supplies was being delivered from outside the camp. These were all supplies that had been plundered from nearby cities and villages, including food, livestock, and even living people. To the Blackstone army, living people were also a form of rations, and mobile rations at that. Report. The messenger rushed in. Lord Fu Yun, we've captured a spy. He claims to be from Lanyan City. Lanyan City? Fu Yun put down his chopsticks and said, Lanyan City is thousands of kilometers away from here. Have they already learned of the situation here? I don't know. This spy says he wants to see you, Lord Fu, and has brought an extremely important letter. Oh? Bring him in. Yes, Lord Fu. Not long after, a wretched-looking man with his hands tied behind his back walked in and immediately knelt on the ground. General, please don't kill me. I'm here to be a messenger. Messenger? Fu Yun couldn't help but laugh. There's actually such an ugly and cowardly messenger in this world? Men bring him out and behead him. Wait, General, read the letter first. Bring the letter up. The letter was a kind of rice paper with a faint fragrance. In the world of scholars in Lanyan City, many people would use this kind of rice paper made from special peachwood pulp. However, it was too expensive, so ordinary people couldn't afford it. A few lines of words were written densely on the rice paper. The title was Lord Commander of the Blackstone Empire Army, and the inscription was Generals of the Qin Empire Army. Fu Yun glanced at it and couldn't help but laugh. Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and Lu Xiu. Why aren't these people enjoying their lives in the imperial capital? Why are they working with the Blackstone Empire? Chapter 1027. The emissary said, Feng Jixing is arrogant and has repeatedly spoken rudely to the lords of the National Army. This time the troops have entered Lingnan. I'm sure Feng Jixing wants to take this opportunity to get rid of all of you, so the National Army doesn't plan to sit and wait for death. Instead, we've decided to cooperate with your army and work together from the inside and outside to eliminate Feng Jixing's 80,000 Imperial Guards in one fell swoop. In this way we can march straight in and kill all the remnants of the Great Qin Empire. Fu Yun smiled and said, Then what do you need me to do? Get rid of Feng Jixing. The emissary knelt on one knee and said, The only people the National Army is afraid of are Feng Jixing, Weiqiu, Chu Chu, Chu Yao, Sidu Sen, and other God-state warriors. We know that the Blackstone Empire has countless powerful warriors. Therefore we would like to ask for your help to eliminate these lackeys of the Qin Empire. Where are Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi? Fu Yun asked faintly. I really don't know, Humph. Fu Yun sneered and said, You have a good plan. Unfortunately, it is too wishful thinking. If Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi show up, how are we going to resist them? The emissary was shocked and said, General, go back and tell Zhuang Yan and Su Changjing that I can cooperate with them. As long as Feng Jixing, Weiqiu, and the others show up, the Blackstone Empire will naturally eliminate them. However, the terms of the cooperation must be changed. North Ridge can only give you Qihai Province and Yunzhong Province. As for Lanyan City and Wugu City, they will all belong to the Blackstone Empire. Yes, I will go back and report this. Yes. Fu Yun faintly smiled. As a sign of sincerity, I have a silver tiger seal here that can mobilize 3,000 troops of the Blackstone Empire. I'll give it to you. Have Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others write a joint letter to me to express their sincerity. In addition, I want all of their official seals to be handed over to me. Otherwise, there's no need to talk about any cooperation. Yes. The emissary was a yes man and he only had the courage to nod his head. How could an ordinary mortal withstand the aura that Fu Yun displayed? It was already very good that he didn't piss his pants in terror. In 100 Ridge City the stars were dim. On the third day after receiving the news, the Imperial Army's 30,000 cavalrymen arrived at the city. The army needed supplies to advance and 100 Ridge City was one of them. The news of the Blackstone Empire attacking the Mingshan province had already spread, and the citizens of 100 Ridge City felt insecure. However, when Feng Jixing's army arrived, the citizens finally calmed down. Feng Jixing was a famous general of the empire, and his reputation was second only to Lin Muyu. In the hearts of the citizens of the empire he was like a god. The warhorse neighed as Feng Jixing rode at the front, directly entering 100 Ridge City. The citizens lined the streets on both sides to welcome him. When will Su Jiantao's troops arrive? Feng Jixing asked. At the side, Luo Yu cupped her fists and said respectfully, 1 day later. Su Jiantao only has 10,000 cavalrymen under him, so he will lead the cavalrymen and infantry to protect the supply wagons and equipment. It is estimated that he will bring a total of 20 deicide cannons, 300 magic crystal cannons, and close to 20,000 artillery shells. Su Jiantao, that bastard. The corners of Feng Jixing's mouth curled up. You indeed knows how to make good use of people. This Su Jiantao is steady in his conduct, unlike Zhang Wei who is impatient and rash. He can indeed be considered a general who can take charge of an entire area. However, it seems that it will be a little too late for him to arrive. I'm afraid that Xiangyu won't be able to withstand Lu Yan's offensive. If Shangyang City is breached, then the situation in Lingnan will be on the verge of collapse. Zhang Wei grinned. I think that commander is worrying too much. Xiangyu isn't that weak and Lu Yan isn't that powerful. What's more, Shangyang City has several deicide cannons and over 100 magic crystal cannons. I don't believe that Xiangyu's troops will be so easily crushed. Moreover, Shangyang City is sturdy and has ample resources. It won't be a problem for them to hold out for a month. That's true, but if something unexpected happens, how will we deal with it? Feng Jixing looked southward, his eyes filled with worry. Luo Yu coughed and said, Commander, are you worried that Xiangyu will rebel? Feng Jixing smiled faintly. I don't know what I'm worried about either. As for Xiangyu, his loyalty to Her Highness Yin is still trustworthy. However, it's hard to say whether a person can maintain his faith in a difficult situation. If we delay, I'm afraid that we will disappoint Xiangyu. Therefore, the earlier we arrive at Shangyang City, the better. Then what do you plan to do, Commander? Order the army to rest here for a day. The day after tomorrow, when Su Jiantao's troops arrive, they will immediately bring his cavalry to reinforce Shangyang City. Then? Luo Yu's expression was a little worried as she said, What about the National Army? By this time tomorrow, the front of the National Army might have already arrived. Are we going to hand 100 Ridge City over to the National Army? Bring the National Army with you. Yes. The next day, Su Jiantao led an army of 50,000 troops to Bailing City and joined forces with Feng Jixing. Together with the National Army's tens of thousands of troops, they headed for Shangyang City together. At this time, the situation outside Shangyang City was already tense. The sun was high up in the sky and it was almost noon. The Yihe country's army of 100,000 was in formation outside the city. On the city wall, Xiangyu held his bloodthirsty spear and looked coldly into the distance. There was a rider galloping towards them, holding the flag of the Yihe country. He seemed to be a negotiator. Don't shoot. Let him come to the city wall, Xiangyu said faintly. A group of archers lowered their bows. Below the city wall, the general holding the flag of the Yihe country had a pockmarked face. He was about 30 years old and wore the title of captaincy. He looked at the city wall from afar and shouted, Where is Duke Yu? Xiangyu leaped up and stood proudly in the air. I'm here. The pockmarked face laughed loudly. Duke Yu, do you still remember me, Lu Yang? Cousin Lu Zhao Lu Yang. I remember you. Duke Yu indeed has a good memory. Lu Yang laughed. This time, Commander Qin Yi led 100,000 troops to form an alliance with the Blackstone Empire to recover the lost land in Lingnan. Wherever the army passed, it was like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. Duke Yu is a smart man. Don't be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. You can also gain the reputation of a marquis. What do you think, Duke Yu? Xiangyu laughed loudly. The remnants of the Yihe country are like stray dogs. Now they are being held hostage by the bandits of the Blackstone Empire. Please go back and tell Qin Yi that the only reason the Yihe country has been defeated again and again for the past 10 years is that it does not have a true backbone. Your entire country is a bunch of spineless trash. If you had half the tenacity and bravery of the Qin Empire, would you have fallen to such a state? You. Lu Yang was furious. He pointed his spear at Xiangyu and said, Are you really going to put up a stubborn resistance? Xiangyu smiled faintly. If the Yihe country wants to attack the city, then attack. What's with all this nonsense? Lu Yang, you are Lu Zhao's cousin. Although you are not as powerful as Lu Zhao, your ability to bend your knees is not inferior to Lu Zhao's. Fine, just you wait. Lu Yang left with a red face. On the city wall, the old general Lu Yongchang frowned. Duke Yu, why did you provoke Lu Yang? Once this kind of villain goes crazy and bites people, it will be terrible. Xiangyu's eyes were cold. He suddenly looked up at the sky and sighed. I need to give the world an explanation. I need to give an explanation to the ancestors of the Xiang family. What explanation? Xiangyu said faintly, For so many years there have been rumors in the empire that I colluded with Qin Yi and the Yihe country. They say that I, Xiangyu, am not a subject of the Qin family. Now is a great opportunity. Even if I have to bleed dry, I will prove to the world that the word betrayal has never been in the Xiang family's teachings. Lu Yongchang was speechless. Perhaps Xiangyu was right. They had to face the Yihe country. A bloody battle was coming. Below the city, the war drums rumbled. The Yihe country's formation began to change. Large-scale siege chariots and scaling ladders appeared among the crowd. They approached the city under the protection of the heavy shield-bearers. Lu Yongchang raised his arm. Aim the magic crystal cannons. Once they are within range, fire immediately. But remember, don't waste any cannonball. Fire one every 15 minutes. Just delay the Yihe country's attack. There is no need for us to waste time with the Yihe country. The real enemy is behind them. Boom, boom, boom. Mushroom clouds rose from the ground outside the city. The improved magic crystal cannons were even more powerful. The difference in equipment between the two sides was too great. The Iha country did not even have a single heavy cannon. How could they be a match? In the blink of an eye they had already suffered heavy losses. Many soldiers even lost their will to fight and began to retreat. Don't retreat. Attack with me. Lu Yang raised his long saber and shouted loudly. But it seemed to be meaningless. A large number of Iha country soldiers still retreated. They were already scared out of their wits by the power of the magic crystal cannons. Qin Yi and Qin Huan stood on the general's platform in silence. Right at this moment there was chaos in the rear. A group of sea and mountain army soldiers on war horses had arrived. Lu Yen held his long sword and shouted, "Qin Yi, where is your law enforcement team? Why aren't you enforcing the law immediately when there are deserters?" Qin Yi said shakily, "Commander Lu Yen, the enemy's cannons are too powerful. We also, what nonsense are you spouting?" Lu Yen roared. "Orders must be strictly enforced. Deserters must be severely punished. Men, come with me and kill them. Behead anyone who turns back." Hundreds of Blackstone Empire cavalry raised their sabers and charged over. Without any explanation they began to kill the Iha country soldiers. "Bastard!" On the general's platform, Captain Si Lin Sun unsheathed his sword and roared, "Lu Yen is too much. I can't take it anymore. I'd rather fight to the death with the Blackstone Empire than suffer this humiliation." In the distance, Lu Yen raised his eyebrows and said, "Yo, it's rare for the Iha country to have a general with backbone. Come, I'll wait for you to kill me." Qin Huan hurriedly shouted, "Lin Sun, are you crazy? You're a soldier. How can you go against your superiors without orders? Retreat immediately." Lin Sun gritted his teeth but didn't retreat. "Men, disarm and drag him down." Qin Yi said indifferently. "Commander." Lin Sun's eyes were filled with tears. "We've been bullied to this extent. Do we still have to swallow this humiliation?" "Drag him down." Qin Yi's gaze was indifferent. "Without my orders, Lin Sun cannot be reinstated." "Humph, a bunch of cowards." Lu Yen smiled fiercely and sheathed his blood-stained sword. He said, "Attack the city. Kill anyone who dares to fight." Chapter 1028. On the 20th day of the 4th month, a dense horde of cavalry swept in from the north. The banners of the Imperial Army, Songnan Army and National Army fluttered in the wind, looking imposing. However, when the army was about 20 li away from Shangyang City, Feng Jixing ordered them to stop and set up camp, forming a standoff with the Blackstone Empire's army. On the other hand, the Iha nation's army had been attacking Shangyang City for the past 2 days. Not only had they failed to conquer the city, but they had also lost more than 20,000 soldiers. Thousands of people had even died at the hands of Lu Yan's law enforcement squad. At night, the entire Iha nation's defeated camp was dead silent. Inside the large tent, Qin Yi sat on the commander's seat. The candlelight beside him flickered in the strong wind as if it would go out at any moment. Qin Huan, Lu Yang, and the others stood on either side of him with ugly expressions on their faces. "We cannot continue attacking like this." Qin Huan gritted his teeth. "Otherwise, the last of the Iha bloodline will all die here. Royal Father, we cannot continue to be controlled by Lu Yan. Lu Yan's heart is like a jackal. He has no intention of cooperating with the Iha kingdom at all. Instead, he is using the blood of the Iha kingdom soldiers to deplete Shangyang City's heavy cannons and arrows. Once the Iha kingdom loses its value, Lu Yan will definitely not let us off." Lu Yang was stunned and said in a low voice, "Young Highness, lower your voice. The walls might have ears." "Ha!" Qin Huan could not help but laugh. "We are so careful. Are we still the Iha kingdom of the past? Back then, didn't the Iha kingdom hold up the banner of treating all people as benevolent and treating all people as equals? Now we can peacefully watch as our people are slaughtered by jackals and wolves, and peacefully watch as the Iha kingdom's warriors are slaughtered by our enemies. I cannot accept this." Qin Yi looked up at his son and said, "Calm down. No one wants to see today's situation, but what can we do?" Qin Huan said, "Does Royal Father not know that Feng Jixing has arrived?" "I know." "Then does Royal Father know who else has come with Feng Jixing?" "Su Jiantao and the generals of the National Army, as well as Feng Jixing's lackeys Zhang Wei and Luo Yu." Qin Huan smiled faintly. "Father knows a little but not everything." "How so?" "I've already sent people to investigate. The people who followed Feng Jixing to Mingshan province were the former Marshal Ding Shi of Iha country, as well as Ding Sanging and the others under Ding Shi. Ding Shi is now the main general of the rear army of the Great Qin Empire. He single-handedly manages all the provisions and supplies, and controls the lifeline of the Great Qin Empire's army. Oh. Qin Yi's eyes lit up. What do you mean? Defeat the Qin Empire through Ding Shi? No. Qin Huan shook his head and frowned. Feng Jixing can't be defeated. If Feng Jixing is defeated, our Iha country will vanish instantly. Villains like Lu Yan and Fu Yun will not let us go. In my opinion, times have changed. We should join hands with Feng Jixing. Feng Jixing's enemies are Lu Yan and Fu Yun, and our enemies are also Lu Yan and Fu Yun. No, we can't. Qin Yi shook his head suddenly. It's impossible for the Iha country and the empire to cooperate anymore. Give up this idea. Royal Father. Qin Huan didn't give up persuading him. He continued, what Royal Father is worried about is nothing more than the war 12 years ago. But now things have changed. The empire has suffered from the wars of the Demon Tribe, the Tianji Empire, and the Blackstone Empire. They have suffered from the war and can't bear the pain of war anymore. How much hatred will they have for the Iha country? But now, Feng Jixing has less than 100,000 soldiers, while Lu Yan and Fu Yun have about 140,000 soldiers. They are definitely not under Feng Jixing. Feng Jixing is a smart man. He naturally knows how to win the war with the least cost. Qin Yi seemed a little tired. He leaned back on the chair softly and said, what do you think? Lu Yang said, maybe, this is the best result. The other captaincy also nodded. Commander, please make a decision. Qin Yi sighed. Then, let's discuss how to join hands with Feng Jixing. What is the bargaining chip of the alliance? We need to see Feng Jixing first. Qin Huan frowned and said, I am willing to go to see Feng Jixing at night. But, Royal Father, please let someone go with me. Tell me who. Lin Sun. The Lin Sun who hit Lu Yan 2 days ago? Yes. Qin Huan said in a deep voice, Royal Father, you may not know this, but Lin Sun is the cousin of Iha country's General Lin Yu. He used to follow Marshal Long Qianlin and later became very close to Marshal Ding Shi. Therefore, it may be safer to bring Lin Sun to the Imperial Army's camp. After all, even if Ding Shi doesn't give me face, he will at least give face to his old friend Lin Sun. But do you know how dangerous this trip will be? I know, but I am willing to take the risk. Permission granted. Qin Yi waved his hand slightly and said, you and Lin Sun should change into the clothes of craftsmen, and pretend to be laborers who are transporting wood for the catapults. Otherwise, Lu Yan and Fu Yun will never let you go. Yes, I know. On the way, take care. Qin Yi looked at him deeply and suddenly felt a pain in his heart. He found that his son had begun to understand how to take responsibility, but it was the same as pushing him onto the road to ruin. When it was almost dawn, a group of people appeared on the main road pushing a flatbed cart. It was Qin Huan, Lin Sun, and the others. They had changed into craftsmen's clothes and escaped the disaster. Otherwise, they would have become food for the Blackstone Empire. Lin Sun's eyes looked into the distance. There, a group of cavalry was galloping over. Young Prince, it's the Qin Empire's scouts. Everyone be on guard. As a soldier, it was inevitable for Lin Sun to react to this kind of situation. No, wait a moment. Qin Huan said in a low voice, don't resist. You don't need to say anything. I'll do the talking. Yes. In the darkness of the night, silver and gold emblems with purple flowers flashed on the backs of the horses. In the blink of an eye, the 100 scouts of the Imperial Army were already comparable. Compared to the Uprising Kingdom's scouts, the Imperial Army scouts were simply too elite. They were well trained, their swords and armor were bright, and their battle strength was naturally on a completely different level. Feng Jixing trained his troops and strived for perfection. There was no doubt about this. Who are you? The Imperial Army centurion shouted in a low voice. We're locals. Qin Huan walked forward with a Lingnan accent and said respectfully, Sir, we're just laborers transporting wood. Transporting wood? The centurion glanced at the flatbed cart and said, Where's the wood? It's already been sent to the Blackstone Empire's main camp. So you're saying you're a spy? No, not a spy. Qin Huan said, Sir, I'm a relative of General Ding Shi. Here. This is General Ding Shi's cousin Ding Sun. General Ding Shi's cousin? The centurion frowned. What are you doing here? Are you here to visit relatives? Now that the war is imminent, such a small matter cannot be tolerated. Leave quickly. Qin Huan gritted his teeth, but we want to see General Ding Shi. Perhaps, Sir can take us as spies and hand us over to General Ding Shi. Oh, I've never seen such shameless people who want to be taken away. The centurion smiled slightly. Men, check if they have any weapons. Take them all away, but not to see Ding Shi, but to see our vanguard general, Zhang Wei. Qin Huan was shocked. The sky gradually brightened. Zhang Wei dashed through the camp in his military boots, sword in hand. From afar, he saw the Imperial Army scouts escorting a group of people in. Who are these people? Zhang Wei frowned. We suspect that these people are spies. They insist on seeing Ding Shi. They're from Lingnan, right? Since they insist on seeing Ding Shi, all the more we can't bring them to him. Bring them away with me and let the Lord Commander decide. Yes. In the central tent, after a group of spies were escorted in, Feng Jixing immediately stood up and squinted at one of them. He suddenly smiled. I was wondering who it was, so it's an esteemed guest. Young Highness Qin Huan, it's been a long time. In a flash, 7 years have passed. I thought Young Highness was already hanging on the dragon-shaped island? Qin Huan's face was livid. General Feng, why make fun of me? Qin Huan is only a messenger. I'm here on behalf of Father Qin Yi to discuss military affairs with General Feng. Military affairs? Feng Jixing smiled faintly. Young Highness who only knows how to flirt and have fun in Xiaoyao, what kind of military affairs can you discuss? Qin Huan gritted his teeth. General Feng is too prejudiced against me. I only want to cooperate with you and bring some news that might interest you, General Feng. General Feng is naturally a famous general, but I'm afraid General Feng doesn't know how many dragon riders Lu Yen and Fu Yun have, where their dragon riders reside, where the dragon's food comes from, where the rations for their 150,000 troops are located, and where their water source comes from. I know all of these very well. Feng Jixing became serious. Then how do you want to cooperate, Young Highness? We'll work together to annihilate Lu Yan's troops. Together with Xiang Yu's troops in Shangyang City, we'll have 3 armies. We'll definitely be able to defeat Lu Yan's troops in one fell swoop. Then what's the bargaining chip? Qin Huan took a deep breath. Let our Iha nation return to Lingnan and have a place to rest. In your dreams. Feng Jixing said coldly, there's only one way for Iha nation. Kneel down and surrender to me, surrender to my Qin Empire. Otherwise the day I, Feng Jixing, defeat Lu Yan's troops will be the day you die. Maybe, you'll become Lu Yan's food before that day comes. Young Highness, why don't you kneel down? As he spoke, Feng Jixing's divine power came out of his body. His cast immortal personality glowed with a domineering light. His realm spread out instantly, making people feel like they were in a raging purgatory. Qin Huan frowned and his body trembled violently. He couldn't help but slowly lower his body and kneel in front of Feng Jixing. His voice trembled. Qin Huan? Qin Huan is willing to surrender. Chapter 1029. What's going on? The curtain of the tent was lifted, and Ding Shi came in wearing a set of exquisite and mighty armor. The 3 golden stars on his collar were shining brightly. His status in the Qin Empire was not low either. He was a commander-level warlord and to a certain extent, he was on an equal footing with Feng Jixing. Qin Huan. When Ding Shi saw the man kneeling on the ground, he couldn't help but be shocked. Feng Jixing immediately withdrew his domain and said with a smile, General Ding Shi is here. When the domain disappeared, the uncomfortable feeling in Qin Huan's body instantly disappeared as well. However, his face was covered in cold sweat. No one knew how profound Feng Jixing's cultivation was, but it was clearly not something that ordinary people could match up to. What the hell is going on? Lin Sun? Ding Shi found another acquaintance. Lin Sun hurriedly saluted and said, General Ding, we have nowhere to go. Lu Yan doesn't treat us as human beings at all. Many soldiers of Iha country died tragically under Lu Yan's butcher knife. So the commander and the young prince have decided to cooperate with the empire to fight against Lu Yan's army. It's not cooperation. Feng Jixing waved his hand and said with a smile, it's surrender. Iha country has surrendered to the empire. This must be made clear. Qin Huan slowly stood up and said, surrender then, but there's no time to lose. Lu Yan ordered us to attack Shangyang City every day, and many people will die every day. General Feng, please make a decision as soon as possible. Yes. Feng Jixing nodded and asked, General Ding Shi, what do you think? Ding Shi also roughly knew what had happened. He nodded and said, our provisions and troops are not fully sufficient. It will take at least 10 days for the Imperial Army's infantry to arrive here. If we fight with Lu Yan's army now, I'm afraid the odds of winning are only 50-50. Even if we win, it will be a Pyrrhic victory. Besides, the national army? Shu. Feng Jixing suddenly made a gesture of silence and said with a smile, someone arrange for the young prince to rest first. I'll discuss it with Marshal Ding Shi. The rest of you leave. Yes, Commander. In the blink of an eye there were only 2 people left in the tent. Ding Shi looked puzzled. What's wrong, General Feng? Feng Jixing said in a low voice, we captured a person yesterday and he's one of Zhuang Yan's men. We obtained information from him that Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing and the others have already decided to submit to Lu Yan and Fu Yun, whereas the condition Lu Yan and Fu Yun raised was for Zhuang Yan and the others to write a joint declaration, hand over their official seals, and hand over all the supplies the Imperial Army brought along to the Darkstone Empire. I presume that Zhuang Yan will surely make a move in the next 2 days. Zhuang Yan, that bastard, is he really going to betray the Empire? Ding Shi's tone was somewhat agitated. Humph, it's only a matter of time before this kind of villain betrays us. However, it's a good thing that he betrays us now. I plan to beat him at his own game and send our gift to Lu Yan as a meeting gift. What do you mean? Commander Feng has a plan? Yes. Feng Jixing nodded and said, there are more than 50,000 soldiers in the National Army, and the only things they're carrying are some dry rations and the magic crystal crossbows they've asked for in every possible way. There are about 50,000 bolts in the magic crystal crossbows. I'm guessing that Zhuang Yan will definitely offer these magic crystal crossbows to the Blackstone Empire because the magic crystal crossbows and cannons are what the Blackstone Empire fears the most. That's why I'm going to increase the amount for the National Army and offer the magic crystals of the Forbidden Army and Dark South Army to Lu Yan. The people of the Blackstone Empire don't know how to use magic crystals, so it's the same as picking up a hot potato. As long as we light one of them, it'll cause a chain of explosions. At that time, with our tens of thousands of cavalry attacking, it's not impossible for us to win with our numbers. Ding Shi couldn't help but laugh loudly. Feng Jixing's eyes widened. Say something, what are you laughing at? Ding Shi stopped laughing and said, I'm laughing because Marshal Long Qianlin was right. Among the generals of the Qin Empire, only Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing are scheming and full of evil tricks. There's no idea you can't come up with. Now it looks like it's true. Others attack me and Ayu. Let me ask you, is this idea feasible? It's feasible. Ding Shi nodded. But it's also difficult. First of all, how will you add the magic crystals of the Forbidden Army and Dark South Army to the National Army's gift? That's the first problem. Ha ha ha. Feng Jixing laughed and patted Ding Shi's shoulder. Brother, you're not as good as me. Do you know that Zhuang Yan has 4 great generals? Zhao, Qian, Sun, and Li. These 4 generals are the most valued by Zhuang Yan. And these 4 people have long been bribed. Their families have all moved to Lanyan City to live, and I've treated them to more than a banquet. Zhuang Yan thinks that the people around him are his own people, but he doesn't know that I've already planted a lot of spies. Ding Shi was speechless. Schemer? No, this is called a man of great ambition doesn't care about trifles. Then did you stay in the brothel after drinking the banquet? No, how can I, Feng Jixing, be that kind of person? Your face is red. I must be right. Feng Jixing gritted his teeth. Let's skip this and continue to talk about military affairs. This matter still needs General Ding Shi's cooperation to ensure that nothing goes wrong. General Feng, please speak. From today on, I'll hand over all the defense of the camp to you. Once Zhuang Yan and the others make a move, General only needs to chase and kill them. There's no need to kill them all, just send them to Lu Yan's camp. And I'll naturally train my troops and wait for this massacre. All right. Ding Shi looked at the sky outside and said, the next few days will be very dangerous. General Feng, please be careful. Perhaps Fu Yun will send someone to assassinate you. Don't worry, Ouyang Yan and the 4 absolutes of white leaves are here. Fu Yun doesn't have that much courage. That's good. Just a day later the Imperial Army made their move. At night, a row of carriages carrying heavy goods left the camp. Who's there? The patrolling Imperial Army soldier raised a torch and asked loudly, what's on the carriage? On the carriage, a man lifted his cloak and shouted in a low voice, are your dog eyes blind? You don't even recognize me? Oh, so it's Commander Zhuang. Going out so late at night? What's on the carriage? Please let us take a look. This is our duty. Commander, please don't make things difficult for us. It's all some grass and bran that the horses don't eat. They'll be thrown away after they're taken out. This commander is personally supervising the transportation of rations, and you want to inspect it? Yes, please forgive us, Commander Zhuang. Impudent. Zhuang Yan suddenly pulled out his sword and shouted in a low voice, Who do you think you are? You don't know your place. You even dare to offend me? The centurion hurriedly said, Commander, please don't be angry. It's just that, the wheel marks are so deep. It doesn't look like it's empty. It's better to inspect it. Zhuang Yan's eyes were cold and he didn't say a word. The centurion was stunned for a moment, then smiled sheepishly and said, Since Commander Zhuang is in a hurry, then forget it. At least you know what's good for you. Nearly 100 carriages left the camp in an endless stream. Zhuang Yan also swaggered off together with them. Behind the fence of the camp, 3 figures stood there like mountains. They were Feng Jixing, Ding Shi, and Su Jiantao. They've left? Feng Jixing asked. Yes, they've left. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, send your men to intercept them. There is no need to be serious, just shoot a few people and leave. Su Jiantao immediately passed down the order to secretly gather all the cavalry. 2 hours later, follow me to attack Liu Yan's central army. We must shake the morale of the Blackstone Empire's army and make them not have the heart to continue fighting here. Yes. Su Jiantao cupped his fists. Ding Shi then said, You can release Yu Shu. Once our army moves, the Iha country and Shangyang City's army must also attack together, otherwise it will be difficult to obtain any merit. Yes, immediately. Late at night, after the convoy had experienced an interception, they arrived at the camp of Liu Yan's army. The torches were brightly lit and Liu Yan, Fu Yun and the rest personally came out to welcome them. However, they saw that the cloth bags of the convoy and the wheels were pierced with arrows. The white feathers were very eye-catching. Zhuang Yan lifted his cloak and dismounted. This subordinate Zhuang Yan greets Commander Liu Yan. Liu Yan sneered and did not speak. In his eyes, Zhuang Yan was just a dog wagging its tail and begging for pity. Inspect the goods. Yes. A group of soldiers came forward and used their spears to pierce through the goods on the carriages. Other than the dried cattle and sheep, there were carriages full of magic crystal reserves. Liu Yan walked forward and narrowed his eyes to look at the neatly arranged magic crystal cannons on the carriages and said, These are the magic crystal cannons that the Qin army is using to fight against us? Zhuang Yan was stunned. He only thought that they had delivered magic crystal crossbows and did not think that there would be magic crystal cannons. He could not help but look at his subordinates, but they purposely did not look at him. Yes, Commander. Zhuang Yan could only brace himself and nod. Without these cannons, I want to see how Feng Jixing is going to defend against our cavalry and dragon riders. Liu Yan said in a deep voice, Send them all into the main camp's armament storage. Yes. Just at this time Fu Yun said, Wait, N. Fu Yun floated forward and picked up a magic crystal cannon. However, he found that there was a small red light on it that flickered. He could not help but frown. What is this? One of Zhuang Yan's subordinates said, Reporting to Darren, this is the signal of the magic crystal cannon, indicating that it can be used. So that's how it is. Fu Yun did not understand, so he said with a smile, Store it. Yes. What kind of signal was this? This was just a time detonation device provided to Feng Jixing by the Celestial Emperor system. There were 10 of them in total, and they were separately hidden in 10 magic crystal cannons. 2 hours later, the sound of heavy iron hooves could be heard on the plains. Feng Jixing, Su Jiantao, and Ding Shi were all dressed in armor. They were looking at the situation in the Blackstone Empire's main camp several li away. It seemed like the magic crystal cannons had not been fired yet. Suddenly, with a burst of noise, a group of people came over. It was Zhuang Yan's group, who were in charge of transporting supplies. However, Zhuang Yan had already been captured by the 4 generals and thrown into the war chariot. Feng Jixing, you scoundrel. Zhuang Yan cursed loudly while looking at his trusted subordinates. He roared, Zhao Qian, Sun Li, you 4 scoundrels, traitors, you are all traitors. General Feng, how should we deal with this person? Feng Jixing urged his horse forward and looked at Zhuang Yan with disdain. He smiled and said, Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, Lu Xiu, and the others have committed treason. According to the law, they should be executed. Men, behead Zhuang Yan and use his blood as a sacrifice to the flag. Yes. Zhuang Yan cursed as his head was chopped off. Blood splattered 3 feet and dyed half of the Imperial Army's flag red. Right at this moment, the light from the magic crystal cannons suddenly soared into the sky. The detonation was a success. Feng Jixing slowly pulled out the azure dragon saber and shouted in a low voice, Brothers, charge into the main camp. It is time to render meritorious service to the country. Chapter 1030. The sound of war drums and cannons mixed together. Lu Yen was startled awake from his sleep and hurriedly got up. He didn't even have time to put on his armor before he dashed out of the camp. However, he only saw flames soaring into the sky from the armory in the distance. Countless soldiers and war horses were howling in pain within the flames. In that instant, Lu Yen felt as if his heart had been pierced by a sharp knife. His face was pale as he raised his sword and roared, "What's going on? What exactly is going on?" A Chiliarch ran over in a sorry state and said while trembling with fear, "Commander, an explosion occurred in the warehouse. Those magic crystal cannons that Zhuang Yan donated exploded on their own, triggering a series of explosions. A total of 13 warehouses were affected by the explosions. Most of the tents along the way were also destroyed. We suffered heavy losses. Why did the magic crystal cannons explode?" Lu Yen was so angry that his voice trembled. Why did they explode? The Chiliarch couldn't answer. At this moment, several figures descended from the sky. It was Fu Yun and a few dragon riders. "Commander, we must make a decision quickly and stabilize the army's morale. Otherwise the army might collapse," Fu Yun said in a low voice. "Where's Bailey Yen? Where is Bailey Yen?" Lu Yen was bold but not astute. At this moment he could only think of the army's number one strategist, Bailey Yen. In the darkness a group of people ran over. Someone shouted, "Mr. Yen is here." Sure enough, Bailey Yen didn't even put on his robes in a hurry. His eyes reflected the flames in the distance. He said, "What exactly happened?" "The warehouse exploded. It was those magic crystal cannons. We still don't know why," Lu Yen said. Bailey Yan's body trembled slightly. "We were tricked." Lu Yen and Fu Yun were stunned at the same time. Tricked? Zhuang Yan must have already been seen through. This is Feng Jixing's plan. Bailey Yen clenched his fists. His face was ashen. "We underestimated Feng Jixing too much. We also overestimated the intelligence of Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others. Sir, just tell me what we should do now." Lu Yan's face was full of pain. Now that the camp has been ambushed by the magic crystal cannons, and the morale of the army has been shaken, there is nothing we can do to change the situation. We cannot be trapped here. Feng Jixing's subordinates must be arriving soon. Give the order immediately. Dispatch the best team to fight Feng Jixing outside of the camp, and the rest of the people will evacuate the camp with the supplies and go to Lai City. Yes, Lai City. Bailey Yen was slightly at a loss for what to do. His forehead was covered in sweat, and a layer of steam came out from the roasting of the flames. He said, "Lai City wasn't heavily damaged when it was captured, and it can be used as a temporary resting place for us. Hurry up or else it'll be too late." "All right." Lu Yen raised his sword and shouted, "Where are Fan Ping and Zhang Chao?" Among the group of generals 2 people stood out. "Immediately lead a total of 10,000 elite soldiers from your headquarters to the north of the camp and form a formation to fight against Feng Jixing's troops. Cover the retreat of the 3 armies. Do it immediately without delay." "Yes, Commander." The 2 generals cupped their hands and left. Lu Yen, on the other hand, couldn't help but tremble. He knew that Feng Jixing was powerful, but he didn't know that Feng Jixing was this powerful, to the point where he could penetrate every opening. Fu Yun's eyes were cold as he said, "I will lead the dragon riders to assist in the battle. Otherwise, these mortals won't be able to stop Feng Jixing for the time it takes to drink a cup of tea." "Thank you, Lord Fu Yun. Then, let's meet at Lai City." "Yes, Commander, let's go." Under the veil of night, the Darkstone Empire's army that was a mix of over 10,000 infantry and cavalry charged out of the campsite and got into formation in the north. Not long after, the dense sound of horse hooves sounded out, and the forest rumbled as the earth trembled. No one knew how many people had come. Fan Ping was a young general, and his face was still somewhat childish. Holding a battle axe in his hand, he said, Can we stop Feng Jixing's army?" "The brave have no fear. We are not afraid of Feng Jixing, so naturally we won't lose to Feng Jixing." Zhang Chao drew his sword and shouted, "Long contradiction formation, prepare to defend." The best way to defend against cavalry was to use pikemen. A 3-meter-long steel spear could pierce through the bodies of cavalry and horses, and it was cheap to build. Training a pikeman and a steel spear only cost a few coins. However, it was different for heavy cavalry. Each heavy cavalry had to be equipped with at least 2 horses, and each horse had to be maintained by a specialist. Adding on the saddle, armor, and spear, the cost of 1 heavy cavalry was equivalent to the cost of 5 pikemen. If they could trade 1 for 1, it would be worth it. This was also Zhang Chao's wishful thinking. After a long period of war, the Qin Empire's cavalry was already quite sparse, and Feng Jixing had spent who knew how much money to create the 30,000 Imperial Guards. If they could destroy these 30,000 Imperial Guards, the Qin Empire's national strength would definitely be at its weakest. Torches were raised, illuminating everyone's faces. Most of the soldiers of the Blackstone Empire looked exhausted. They had been away from home for too long, and they had almost lost the motivation and courage to continue fighting. The only thing that kept them going was probably the frenzied slaughter, plunder, and ravage of the enemy's women. "They're coming, they're coming," Fan Ping murmured. As expected, the sound of horse hooves crushing dried branches grew more and more frequent. In the next moment, countless cavalry wearing the armor of the Imperial Army and Sangnan Army broke out of the forest, brandishing their shining weapons as they charged. "Fire!" Zhang Chao roared. In the sky, arrows whizzed through the air, and in front of the heavy cavalry Feng Jixing raised his palm, and a lightning domain wreaked havoc in the air, distorting the arrows within dozens of meters. This was the limit of what he could do, and the heavy cavalry phalanx that could not be covered by Feng Jixing all raised their shields. The heads and bodies of the horses were all wrapped in thick armor, and the damage that stray arrows could do was too little. Zhang Wei raised his sword and madly urged his horse forward. When he was less than 100 meters away, he laughed and said, "Brothers, use the magic crystal crossbows and let these bastards have a taste of our power." One by one the Imperial Guards released the magic crystal crossbows. Instantly, streaks of azure light fell into the crowd of Blackstone Empire soldiers. In the blink of an eye, small mushroom clouds rose into the sky, and the scorching shockwaves melted the bodies of the pikemen together with their spears. By the time the Imperial Guards got close, the pikemen formation was already useless. "Kill, kill for me," Feng Jixing roared. He pulled out the Azure Dragon and Crimson Phoenix blades and slashed out waves of flames that engulfed the Blackstone Empire soldiers in the surroundings. Feng Jixing's warhorse was extremely fast. Fan Ping didn't even have time to escape before he crashed into him. He hurriedly raised his battle axe and roared as he slashed at Feng Jixing. Clang! The Azure Dragon blade slashed horizontally, shattering the edge of the battle axe and slicing through Fan Ping's neck. Instantly, a line of blood spread out. The young man couldn't even withstand a single blow, and in the blink of an eye he fell from his horse and died. On the other side, a ball of raging flames descended from the sky, instantly devouring Zhang Chao's body. In the sky, a beautiful woman walked through the air. With every step she took, a magnificent flame lotus appeared. It was Ouyang Yan. After not seeing her for a long time, her strength had once again increased by leaps and bounds. Fan Ping and Zhang Chao thought that the spears and heavy shields would be able to stop their opponents, but that was not the case. Under the unstoppable destructive power of the demonic crystal crossbow, the spear formation was easily destroyed. Su Jiantao brandished his sharp sword, constantly slashing left and right as he charged forward. However, he suddenly felt a deep chill, and he couldn't help but quickly stop his warhorse. He shouted to the people in front of him, "Zhang Wei, be careful. An expert is coming." In the sky, the figures of dragon knights appeared one after another. At the same time, the huge dragon also roared angrily as it sprayed dragon flames onto the ground. In the blink of an eye, the Imperial Guard and Sangnan Army suffered heavy losses. F***CK. Feng Jixing gritted his teeth and leaped up. His two sabers slashed at the nearest dragon knight with the power of a dimensional storm. At the same time he activated the martial god technique. Instantly the sabers were suffused with a chilling aura, and the killing power was at least doubled. Ka-cha! The huge black dragon let out a mournful wail, a half-meter-long gash appeared on its neck. Feng Jixing straightened his body and swept his two sabers horizontally, a human head instantly flew into the air. However, before he could catch his breath, two dragon knights attacked him from the left and right. One of them was even a god king. In the blink of an eye, Feng Jixing was in a bitter battle. Ouyang Yan stood in the air without moving. She stood on a huge flaming disc, and with a wave of her hand, a shocking flaming palm print blasted out, causing the dragon knights in the distance to be in a sorry state. In the night wind, a handsome and elegant figure appeared. It was Scholar Ling. His clear eyes watched the slaughter on the ground. Suddenly, the flute in his hand glowed with divine light as it swept across the ground. He said softly, "Freeze." This was a mid-grade Frost Law divine tome. It was extremely powerful. Layer after layer of frost spread out, and in the blink of an eye, nearly 1,000 people from the Blackstone Empire were frozen on the spot. They died instantly. The Imperial army passed by like they were breaking dry weeds. With just a light touch, the enemies were turned into a pile of ice fragments. On the ground, the roars of the Beeman King rose and fell. He had already turned into a blood-colored ball of light and was slaughtering everywhere. Suddenly, he rose from the ground and pierced a dragon knight's abdomen. He was extremely powerful. Clang! Amidst the scattering of sparks, Feng Jixing's twin sabers were only able to force back Fu Yun's dragon sword. Gusts of raging wind swept through the surroundings, and Fu Yun's expression was extremely unsightly. He knew that Feng Jixing was very powerful, but he didn't expect that this person had actually advanced to such a level. The saber chi contained sharp flames, wind and lightning laws, making it impossible to defend against. "My lord, we have lost. Let's go." In the sky, a dragon knight shouted loudly. One of his arms had been chopped off, and blood was flowing non-stop. Fu Yun glared fiercely at Feng Jixing, nodded and said, "Let's go." Feng Jixing didn't chase after them. As the commander, it was a taboo to underestimate the enemy and advance rashly. In the distance, densely packed torches attacked. They were the people from the Iha Empire, as well as Xiangyu's troops in Shangyang City. They had already launched a surprise attack. For a moment, the Blackstone Empire's army could only be defeated. They were badly mutilated as they fled in the direction of Lai City. Chapter 1031. The pursuit lasted for 3 whole days. Lu Yanjun had almost lost all his war horses. Feng Jixing, Xiangyu, and the others had already joined forces and released all the civilians that Lu Yanjun had captured as food, and sent them back home. Meanwhile, the main force of the Imperial Army and Songnan Army killed countless people along the way. They directly killed their way to Lai City, but due to the lack of provisions they had to retreat. A mere Lai City could not be defended for long. Lu Yanjun's fate was already at its end. 2 days later they returned to Shangyang City. The city was decorated with lanterns and streamers, as if the Shangxi festival had come again. The haze of death that shrouded the whole city had ended because of the great victory of Feng Jixing and Su Jiantao. The civilians naturally cheered and danced. After the battle, Lu Yanjun lost more than half of his men, while the Imperial Army and the Songnan Army lost nearly 10,000 men. As for Iha country, they attacked from the flank and were counterattacked by Lu Yanjun. They only had about 30,000 men left. As for the 30,000 soldiers of Iha country, they were now stationed outside Shangyang City. On one side, the Imperial Army and the Songnan Army surrounded and protected them. Although the governor's office of Shangyang City was not as majestic and solemn as Zetian Palace, it had a unique style. Southern-style buildings could be seen everywhere. There were groups of maids and countless attendants. At this time, the governor's office was beating drums and gongs to welcome the arrival of Feng Jixing, Su Jiantao, and other important officials of the empire. This first celebration banquet must be unique and extremely luxurious. At the banquet, Feng Jixing sat in the host's seat. After all, he was acting as the marshal for Lin Muyu, so his status was naturally above everyone else. Next in order were Su Jiantao, Xiangyu, Ding Shi, Ouyang Yin, Ling Shuxing, Zhang Wei, Luoyu and others. The commander-in-chief of Iha country, Qin Yi and Qin Huan, sat after the 20th place. The people next to them had even been reduced to kiliarchs. Qin Yi, on the other hand, looked calm as he sat there without saying a word. Qin Huan looked a little angry. He seemed to be very dissatisfied with the seating arrangement. After all, the social status in the Qin Empire was very clear. The seating arrangement meant the level of status. Obviously, Feng Jixing did not take the people of Iha country seriously at all. Feng Jixing raised his cup, pondered for a moment, then stood up and said in a clear voice, "When Her Highness Yin Lin General and Princess Shi were in closed-door cultivation, we were guarding the empire's borders. Now that the bandits have invaded our borders, all of us have worked together to chase Lu Yan and the others to Lai City. As long as we have sufficient supplies and fodder, we will be able to sweep them away in one fell swoop. This battle will definitely be decided based on merits. Please rest assured, everyone, Feng Jixing will record down every single merit and reward them together when Her Highness Yin returns. The Empire will never mistreat those who have rendered meritorious service. Is this also considered a reward based on merit?" Someone in the 7th row said indignantly. Feng Jixing looked over and smiled. "Who are you?" The man stood up. "I am Lu Yang, the lieutenant of the Iha Kingdom's 3rd Legion. 5 days ago, I led my men and charged into the heart of Lu Yan's army. I killed more than 5,000 men and lost more than 6,000 men. May I ask Commander Feng if this is considered a great achievement? Yes, of course it is. Feng Jixing smiled faintly. Someone come and take some of General Liu Yang's credit. Oh, I remember now. General Liu Yang's cousin seems to be Liu Zhao, who was ranked first among the 7 marshals of Iha country. Yes. Liu Yang was stunned. General, do you remember what happened at Fire Badger Valley? If I remember correctly, Fire Badger Valley's general also participated, right? Feng Jixing's words were really simple, but there was killing intent in them. Who in the world didn't know that the 30,000 guards army of Fire Badger Valley was killed? That was the biggest humiliation and pain in Feng Jixing's life. He wouldn't be able to forget that painful memory. Naturally, he remembered his enemies clearly. Liu Yang lowered his head and his voice trembled. I am afraid that General Feng remembered wrongly. I was working under the commander and didn't participate in the Fire Badger Valley massacre with brother. It is good that you didn't. Feng Jixing's gaze was ice cold. If I find out, all of you can forget about escaping. All of you have to die. Not only Liu Yang but even Qin Yi, Qin Huan, and a group of Iha nation's generals felt a chill in their hearts. Now, Feng Jixing's words were no longer as insignificant as before. Feng Jixing was now the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. His words were the imperial edict and no one could defy it. Qin Yi picked up the wine cup on the table and said, General Feng's memory is really good. However, since you said that, will General Feng start to look into what happened in the past? I won't. These are 2 separate matters. Feng Jixing cupped his fists and smiled. Don't worry, King Zhenan. Feng Jixing is not the kind of person who would do anything for personal gain. The Iha kingdom has made a great contribution in protecting the country and willingly submitting to the Great Qin Empire. This is a good thing for the people in the world. However, before settling the matter of Lai City, I'm afraid there's one more thing that I need the Iha kingdom's army to do for me. What is it? Qin Huan asked. The National Army. Feng Jixing said lightly, nearly 50,000 National Army troops are camped 10 miles north. Their commander Zhuang Yan has already pleaded guilty and was executed. The National Army colluded with the enemy and committed treason. All officers above Kiliarchs must be executed, but the foundation of the National Army must not be harmed. After all, those soldiers are brave warriors of the Qin Empire. So, I need your brave soldiers to be on standby at all times. When I subdue the National Army, if anyone tries to rebel, they must be suppressed immediately. I wonder if South Protecting King is willing to carry out this task? Qin Yi nodded, his face neither sad nor happy. I am willing. I will listen to General Feng's instructions. Good. Feng Jixing poured a cup of wine and said, Come I Feng toast all the soldiers of Iha country. You repent in time, which is the good fortune of the Qin Empire. I hope that we can fight the enemy side by side in the future and serve the Empire together. As for the rewards and official titles, I will ask Her Highness Yin when we return to Lanyan City. Everyone's contributions will be indispensable. Dozens of generals of Iha country said in unison, Thank you, General Feng. Qin Yi and his son were silent. At this point, what else could they say? They could only listen to what Feng Jixing said. However, Feng Jixing's intention of letting the Iha country troops suppress the rebel army of the National Army was so deep that it made people tremble. This famous general of the empire seemed to have the intention of watching the dogs bite each other. Qin Yi had no choice and could only do this. In order to protect the last bloodline of Iha country, he could only do this. He could only hope that Feng Jixing was a benevolent general and would not be ruthless. Thinking of this, Qin Yi inadvertently glanced at Qin Huan beside him and saw that there was gratitude on his face. It seemed that the province according to merit that Feng Jixing said had already affected him. Ah! Qin Yi smiled silently. This was also good. Perhaps. 4 days later, the army from the north of the ridge arrived 10 miles away. All 200,000 people of the National Army were stationed in the plains and valleys. On the side were 50,000 people of the Imperial Army and tens of thousands of people of the Tsangnan Army. On the 2nd of May, under Feng Jixing's order, 2,000 notices about the death of the National Army's commander Zhuang Yan were sent to all the camps of the National Army. Almost every centurion camp received a notice and every soldier of the National Army knew about this news. In the notice, Feng Jixing ordered all centurions and kiliarchs of the National Army to bring their men to the Imperial Army's camp within 3 days to disarm and accept reorganization and arrangement. Otherwise they would be charged with treason. On the first day, nearly 100,000 soldiers of the National Army disarmed themselves and accepted reorganization. On the second day, 40,000 people disarmed themselves. On the third day 20,000 people disarmed themselves. However, there were still 40,000 soldiers who refused to disarm. They were the subordinates of Su Changjing and Lu Xiu. In the middle of the night, stars filled the sky and illuminated the earth. However, the people on the ground were extremely distressed. In the big tent, Lu Xiu and Su Changjing sat opposite each other and drank wine. Their faces were deathly pale. There are only 2 hours left. Brother Su, do you have an idea? Lu Xiu asked. Su Changjing shook his head. What idea can I have? We have offended Feng Jixing too much. Even if we disarm ourselves, will Feng Jixing let us go? Impossible. Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu have wanted to kill us for a long time. Then Brother Su, what do you mean? We will die if we disarm ourselves, but we might have a chance of survival if we rebel. We have more than 40,000 soldiers. If we rebel against the Empire, we can kill our way to Lai City and seek refuge with Lu Yen. Perhaps we can even take a boat from the southern border to the Blackstone Empire to serve great Emperor Shiwan. This is our only chance of survival. Su Changjing gritted his teeth and said each word firmly. Lu Xiu suddenly raised his cup and drained it in one gulp. Then he smashed the cup on the ground. Rebel. Pass down my order immediately. Follow me to kill our way out of the valley. All right, we will kill our way out together. Yes. Under the starlight, Su Changjing and Lu Xiu's 40,000 soldiers did not even raise their torches. They just headed straight for the exit of the valley. However, they did not notice the dozens of magic crystal cannons that had been set up in the valley, as well as the tens of thousands of Iha country soldiers blocking the exit. In the forest on the hillside, Feng Jixing sat on a huge rock with a wine pot in his hand. He said, "It seems that they have made up their minds." Su Jiantao sneered. Su Changjing and Lu Xiu are 2 idiots. Do they really think that they can charge out of the valley with just these few people? General Feng, what should we do? Should we spare the lives of these 40,000 soldiers? No. There is no need to spare them. Feng Jixing waved his hand. We have given them too many chances. However, these 40,000 soldiers are still determined to follow Su Changjing and Lu Xiu. There is no need to spare them anymore. Pass down my order. Kill all of them. Spare none. Yes, I understand. Su Jiantao raised his hand. Immediately, the magic crystal cannons on the mountain spat out tongues of fire. In the next moment, the valley was in an uproar. In the midst of the chaos, Lu Xiu held his sword and shouted, "Don't panic. Charge forward. Once we get out of here, we will have a chance of survival." At the entrance of the valley, a general was guarding with thousands of soldiers and horses. It was Lin Sun, Lin Yu's cousin. He could be considered the person that Feng Jixing and Su Jiantao thought the most of the Iha country's army. Lin Sun slowly raised his palm and said, "Raise your shields and start shooting." Chapter 1032. Ambush. Ambush. In the valley, the generals of the rebel army were pale. Looking at the soaring flames and the dense arrows in the distance, they were in a dilemma. Only Zhuang Yan raised his long sword and shouted, "Do you see the flag? It's the Iha nation's rabble. How capable can a traitor like Qin Yi be? We are the Imperial Army. Charge forward. Whoever kills Qin Yi will be promoted to Lieutenant General Captaincy." Yes, my lord. With a great reward, there would always be brave men. The rebel army was originally a group of desperados. Hearing the promise of a high position and generous reward, they would naturally fight to the death. For a moment, the battle at the entrance of the valley quickly heated up. After nearly an hour, Lin Sun's subordinates ran out of arrows. He immediately raised his long sword and said, "Don't let a single person out. All officers and soldiers, draw your swords and fight with me. Don't let a single one escape." Under the moonlight, the 2 armies fought fiercely and blood flowed like a river. On the hillside, Feng Jixing narrowed his eyes and closely observed the situation in the valley. Holding the Scarlet Phoenix saber, he muttered, "This Lin Sun is a talented general." On the side, Su Jiantao knew that Feng Jixing was a commander who knew how to use the right people. He smiled and said, "Since the Iha nation has already surrendered, then it's only a matter of a word for General Feng to transfer Lin Sun under his command. However, I'm afraid that it will be criticized by the old officials in the court. After all, this Lin Sun is Lin Yu's cousin, and Lin Yu was the main person who caused the disaster in Lanyan City." "Yes," Feng Jixing sighed and said, "but General Su, don't forget that a soldier's duty is to obey orders. Back then Lin Yu was only Qin Yi's subordinate. It was also his duty to set up the plan. These are 2 different things. This Lin Sun can fight so bravely against the rebel army. He's brave and resourceful. I must use him. Su Jintao smiled faintly. I know I can't persuade General Feng, so I'm just reminding him. If he wants to use him, then use him. The appearance of Liu Yan's army also means that the Blackstone Empire hasn't given up. I'm afraid that another war won't be too far away. The Empire is in dire need of manpower. If General Feng disregards the past and uses a general like Lin Sun, it might not be a bad thing. Feng Jixing laughed and patted Su Jintao's shoulder. You know me well. You subordinates are too straightforward. Only you and Situ Sin know how to be flexible. Being upright is not necessarily a bad thing. After all, some rules are not easily broken if they are managed by upright people. Su Jintao said meaningfully. Feng Jixing wasn't paying attention at all. He only said, after reorganizing the national army, they'll have at least 100,000 people. How do you think we should deal with them? Abolish the national army or? The national army is a national policy. It's a national policy set by Her Highness and Commander Yu. It's better not to break it. I think so too. Then who do you think should be the new commander of the national army? About this, Su Jintao thought for a moment and said, the national army is equivalent to another imperial court. In the future, it will gradually replace the imperial court, and the national army will be the guardian army of the national army. In my opinion, the original commander of the imperial army was Qin Lei. Now, the commander of the national army should be someone from the Qin family. Shizhong Wang Qin Yin is the best candidate. Feng Jixing smiled happily. That's for the best. It just so happens that Yin is relatively free now. A mere temple grand deacon isn't his ambition. Let's do this after we return to the imperial capital. Yes. Su Jintao looked at the valley in the distance and said, should we attack? Otherwise, I'm afraid that the tens of thousands of volunteer soldiers under Lin Sun's command will be wiped out. Let's wait a little longer, Feng Jixing said lightly. Su Jintao was a little surprised. General Feng, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it. Say it. Is General Feng planning to use the rebel army to completely destroy the Iha nation's army? Feng Jixing took a deep breath and glanced at Su Jintao with a frightening cold light in his eyes. Even the battle-hardened Su Jintao couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. He said, could it be that I guessed correctly? Jintao, you are Yu's trusted subordinate and are like a brother to us. I have to do this even if I don't want to. You should be able to understand my feelings, Feng Jixing said meaningfully. Su Jintao nodded. I understand. The Iha nation's army is, after all, a rebel army, and Qin Yi is the one who killed the late Emperor Qin Jin. Their crimes are monstrous, so how can the Empire tolerate them? The Empire can't use Qin Yi, Qin Huan, and the others anymore. If this blood feud can be forgiven, then the people in the Empire are really looking down on the Empress. So, Feng Jixing said unhurriedly, I have to help you and Her Highness settle this matter in advance. The Empire can't have two emperors if the Empire wants to stabilize itself. Those who are loyal to Qin Yi must die. Su Jintao nodded and cupped his fists. I understand. I'll follow your instructions. Launch the attack in 2 hours. Send out the armored cavalry to kill all the rebel soldiers in the valley. Kill them all. Bring the heads of Su Changjing and Lu Xiu to me at daybreak. I'll go back to sleep for a while. I'll leave the matters here, to you. Yes, Commander. Feng Jixing placed his hand on the hilt of his saber and went into the forest alone. The moonlight shone on his body, reflecting the dazzling light from the 3 golden stars on his shoulder. Su Jintao couldn't help but feel sad. Feng Jixing had been alone for so many years. How many people could understand what he was shouldering? There were some things that only he could do. While leaving behind the name of a famous general, he also left behind a lot of curses. Scholars all over the world accused Feng Jixing of being a cruel and unfeeling person. All of this could only be endured by him alone. At the side, a captaincy of the Cangnan army asked, Commander, when do we attack? Su Jintao's eyes were faint. In an hour. Yes. Early morning in the Imperial Army camp. Su Jintao was bathed in blood. He walked into the central tent with 2 guards. The 2 guards each held a tray with bloody heads on it. Feng Jixing had just gotten up to wash up. His back was facing everyone. Is it done? Feng Jixing asked. Yes. Su Jintao cupped his fists. The heads of Su Changjing and Lu Xiu have been brought. Commander, do you want to take a look? No need. Feng Jixing began to wash his face. Bury them on the spot according to the etiquette of a chili arch. In addition, what do you plan to do with the corpses in the valley? Cremate them all. I've already arranged for people to do it. Yes, that's good. Feng Jixing turned around. He took a towel from a servant and wiped his face. How many people from the Iha army died? More than 10,000. Of the remaining 16,000 people, more than 3,000 are seriously injured. Many are so severely disabled that they can no longer pick up weapons. Qin Yi, Qin Huan, Lu Yang, and the others are counting the number of people. The entire Iha army camp is... At this point, Su Jiantao suddenly fell silent. How are they? Feng Jixing asked. They're all crying and screaming. Many of them have some rebellious thoughts. It's normal to have rebellious thoughts. They were originally rebels, so it's not surprising. The corner of Feng Jixing's mouth curled up. But a mere 16,000 people can't make much of a difference. Pass down my order. Arrange for these 16,000 people from the Iha army to be in charge of logistics. Ding Shi will be in charge of them. In addition, call Lin Sun here. Yes. Not long after, Lin Sun, covered in blood and broken armor, rode his horse. He walked straight into the central tent of the Imperial Army camp. He found Zhang Wei, Luo Yu, Su Jiantao, and the other generals there. A trace of reverence flashed across his eyes. Lin Sun quickly walked over and knelt on one knee. General Lin Sun greets the Imperial Army commander. Rise. Feng Jixing smiled. General Lin Sun, do you know why I called you here? Lin Sun was stunned. I don't know. General, what do you think of the Iha army? Feng Jixing asked. Lin Sun was startled. He lowered his head and pondered for a few seconds. Then he looked up and said, the Iha army was originally an army to open up new territories. However, due to improper leadership, they were defeated again and again. They were routed all the way from Dragon-shaped Island to Mingshan province. Their original 500,000 people were reduced to 10,000 today. This subordinate thinks that the Iha army is brave but not good at using it. Well said. What do you think of the Empire's army? For example, the Imperial Army, the Dragon's Courage Legion, and so on. Lin Sun's eyes lit up. The Empire's army is brave and loyal. They have fought many battles since 31 years ago. They defend against the demons in the north and Tianji in the east. The three steel walls stretch for thousands of miles, forging the iron bones of the Empire's army. This subordinate thinks that the Empire's army is a hero who saves the world. Then, are you willing to join the Empire's army? Feng Jixing asked with a smile. Lin Sun was surprised. Haven't I already joined the Empire's army? That's not it. Feng Jixing fished out a tiger tally and said, this is a captaincy seal of the Imperial Army. It just so happens that the Horse Infantry Army lacks a captaincy. Are you willing to lend me a hand? Lin Sun trembled all over. Just say it. Are you willing or not? But this subordinate is just a... Say it. Are you willing or not? Feng Jixing's voice became more serious. Lin Sun knelt down again and cupped his hands. This subordinate is willing. As long as commander gives the order, this subordinate is willing to go through water and tread on fire. Get up. From now on, you are a member of the Imperial Army. Thank you, Commander. When Lin Sun stood up, Su Jiantao said with a smile, congratulations to General Feng for recruiting another general. Same to you. We are all working for the Empire. Obviously, Feng Jixing was also in a good mood. After arranging for Lin Sun to join the army, he said, how is the preparation of the rations? It will be ready in 3 days. No more waiting. Surround and attack Lai City with 100,000 soldiers. We must take Lai City within 10 days and kill Lu Yan's army. Yes, Commander. 3 days later, the mighty army of 100,000 set out from Shangyang City and headed straight for Lai City. Chapter 1033. On the 10th day of the 5th month, amidst the billowing dust, the mountains and plains of Lai City were already covered with the fluttering purple Yinhua war flags. Feng Jixing had spent 5 whole days to transport 100 magic crystal cannons from Shangyang City. It was evident that he was determined to destroy Lu Yan's army. The weather in early summer was very refreshing. The faint mist turned into dew and sprinkled on the city, causing everyone's armor to be wet. Lu Yan, clad in iron armor, walked on top of the city wall. Looking at the approaching Qin army from afar, he felt a chill in his heart. They had come too fast. Crack. Amidst the lightning, Fu Yun broke through the void and arrived. He cupped his fist slowly and said, "Greetings, Commander." "Lord Fu Yun, you don't have to be so courteous." Lu Yan's voice even trembled a little. "Lord, you saw it too, right?" I went to investigate the enemy's situation just now. How many have come? No less than 100,000. The cavalry at the front is already making a detour. Perhaps they will soon surround Lai City. This time Feng Jixing is serious. I don't think he intends to let us leave Mingshan province. Is there any news from the empire? Lu Yin was a little tired. He sat on a sandbag under the battlement and leaned on his sword in front of him. There is. Fu Yun said, Lord Longxi of the Thunder Flame sect and He Song of the Wolf Valley have joined forces. They have gathered at least 150,000 soldiers. Together with His Majesty the Martial Saint Emperor, we can totally mobilize 500,000 soldiers to fight the Qin army to the death. The only problem is, what is it? We have cleared the forest of Dark Mountain, but we still don't have enough warships. Currently we only have 800 warships. It's not enough to transport enough soldiers here. Also, there are at least 3 months before the east wind current arrives. I'm afraid we can't wait any longer. Why don't we open the city gates and head straight for the south? We might still have a chance of winning. Forget it. Lu Yin shook his head. There are still more than 10,000 wounded soldiers in the city, and they can't march at all. I can't let them die with me. Lord Fu Yun, I'm afraid our friendship ends here. Please quickly lead the dragon riders out of this desperate situation. You can fly in the sky and return to your home. I, Lu Yin, will lead the army here to fight Feng Jixing and stall them. No. Fu Yun gritted his teeth and said, His Majesty didn't send me here to bury the sea and mountain army. This absolutely won't do. Lu Yin suddenly laughed in disappointment. You and I are both soldiers of the Empire, so there's no need to be so childish. Go preserve the strength of the dragon riders. In the future, avenge me, Lu Yin, and the 150,000 brothers of the sea and mountain army. The iron hooves of the Blackstone Empire will trample over every inch of the Shattered Cauldron realm and enslave our enemies. Only then will I be able to smile in the underworld. You have really decided? Yes. Fu Yun sighed softly. In that case, Fu Yun will not stop you, Commander. Go avenge me. Not long after, giant dragons rose into the sky one after another, taking the dragon riders with them as well as the peak strength of the army and leaving Liege City. In the blink of an eye, the dozens of dragon riders turned into little black figures in the sky and disappeared from everyone's sight. Lu Yin looked up for a long time. His neck was probably sore, so he sat down again and said, When will they start fighting? Bailey Yin said, Feng Jixing is currently surrounding the city. He won't make a move before he forms an encirclement. How do you think Feng Jixing will attack Liege City, Mr. Yin? Will it be a forceful attack or a desperate one? I'm afraid neither will be the case. Bailey Yin smiled bitterly. Our army only has less than 30,000 soldiers, but Feng Jixing has 100,000. Moreover, he has powerful magic crystal cannons in his hands. He doesn't need to use these two tactics. I'm afraid that before the sky turns dark, he will order the cannons to attack Liege City. Liege City is just a small county city. The city walls aren't thick and can't withstand the destructive power of the magic crystal cannons. Then what about us? Do we have a choice? Lu Yan's eyes were filled with confusion. No. Bailey Yin shook his head. We can either fight to the death or surrender. Surrender? Lu Yin pursed his lips and said, I want to see Feng Jixing. What? Bailey Yin was stunned. Lu Yin stood up. Men, prepare a horse. I want to go to the Qin army's main camp to see Feng Jixing. Absolutely not. Commander, this is like a sheep walking into a tiger's mouth. Don't try to persuade me. Lu Yin murmured, I have to go. Otherwise, Liege City will be in danger. 2 hours later, Lu Yin arrived at the Qin army's main camp with 10 riders. Without any pleasantries, Lu Yin strode across the carpet towards Feng Jixing. He nodded and said, I'm here to negotiate. Feng Jixing sat there in high spirits. He smiled and said, You are not qualified to negotiate. Not qualified? Lu Yin sneered. Feng Jixing, are you so sure that you will win? That's right. Feng Jixing nodded and said, When you had the dragon riders, you were still no match for me. Now that the dragon riders have flown away, what do you have to fight against me? Don't forget, there are still 50,000 people in Liege City. They are all the people of your Qin Empire. Are you, Feng Jixing, going to ignore these people? Feng Jixing couldn't help but burst into laughter. Lu Yin, do you really think I, Feng Jixing, am a 3-year-old child? 5 days ago, I received a secret report from Liege City. You have captured all the people in the city and used them as food for the army. Now, is there even a single one of them alive? You? Lu Yan's face turned pale. Feng Jixing gritted his teeth. His eyes were filled with fire. You are a group of animals, barbarians. You treat the people of the Qin Empire as food. If I, Feng Jixing, negotiate with you, wouldn't I be associating with beasts? Get the hell out of here. In 2 hours we will officially start the war. We will use the military method to decide the winner. Don't make me look down on you. Lu Yan, get the hell out of here. Lu Yan's body trembled. He slowly turned around, almost losing his balance. 2 of his subordinates hurriedly supported him. Otherwise, this commander of the Haiyan Shan army would have a hard time even walking. At dusk, the magicite cannons outside the city began to spit out deadly tongues of fire. Waves of magicite shockwaves pulverized the walls of Liege City. This city had long since become a dead city. The majority of the commoners had already fled, while the rest had been killed and used as rations. To the Qin Empire, this city was a humiliation that had to be erased. Thus, Feng Jixing was doing exactly that. The bombardment continued from dusk until deep into the night, and it lasted for an entire 6 hours. Under Feng Jixing's orders, almost 18,000 heavy demonic crystal cannons from the artillery battalion poured down onto the city, and the tiny city was practically razed to the ground. The Darkstone Empire's army within the city was naturally blasted into pieces, and even Lu Yan died under the bombardment. At daybreak, the Imperial army entered to collect the corpses. However, they couldn't find a single complete corpse. Instead, they found some enemy soldiers hiding in the cellars of the city. They were all shot to death. This was how war was, and Feng Jixing had been through hundreds of battles. He had long since tempered himself to the point where he was impervious to fire and water. Benevolence was simply too distant for him. The next day, a monument was erected at the ruins of Liege City to commemorate the dead people of the Qin Empire. Feng Jixing left 20,000 soldiers for Jianghu to reorganize and use to guard the southern border. 5 days later, Feng Jixing led the army back to Lanyan City. 1 month and 6 days in the Shattered Cauldron realm was equivalent to a year in the 64 domains. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others' cultivation had improved greatly. They had spent most of their time in the Cave of Gods and Demons, so they had gotten used to the temperature there. Lin Muyu had already advanced to the 79th Grotto Heaven stage, while Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had reached the 77th and 74th Grotto Heaven stage respectively. The one who had improved the most was Shi Yan. Her strength had already recovered to the 62nd God Emperor standard. Although it was still far from the 99th Grotto Heaven stage, she had already recovered at least 30% of her strength. Ordinary God Emperors wouldn't be able to do anything to her. At night, the sky of the 64 domains was as bright as a mirror. On a hill, Lin Muyu was lying on her back, allowing the starlight to seep into her body. She closed her eyes and said with a relaxed expression, "How long have we been in the prehistoric mystic realm?" "Almost 2 years," Qin Yin said. "Time really flies." In the blink of an eye, 2 years have passed. Lin Muyu opened her eyes and hugged Qin Yin. "Xiaoyin, do you miss home?" "Yes, but my family is gone." On the other side, Tang Xiaoxi said, "Don't be so sad. Let's talk about Mu's cultivation. You have been stuck in the 79th Grotto Heaven stage for 3 months. Why don't you look anxious?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "What's the use of being anxious about this? I finally understand what Grandpa Chu Chu said back then. The higher the cultivation, the more important the state of mind is. If I can't break through and prove my Tao, even if I step into the 80th Grotto Heaven, I'll only be a mediocre god, just like Wu Feng and Dong Fang Yen." As she spoke, Lin Muyu suddenly narrowed her eyes. "Someone is coming. It's Feng Zhanlin." As expected, a gust of wind condensed in the air, and Feng Zhanlin's figure appeared. He smiled awkwardly. "I'm really sorry to disturb Lin General's quiet cultivation here." Lin Muyu remained calm. "I'm not cultivating. I'm just flirting with girls here. If you have something to say it quickly." Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi blushed, but they couldn't do anything to this guy. Feng Zhanlin said, "All right then. Reporting to Lin General, a few hours ago the sacred relic was ambushed. The celestial dragon was injured, and 2 of our divine kings were also seriously injured. The treasure in the sacred relic, star chest, was stolen." "What?" Lin Muyu suddenly jumped up from the grass. "Who is so daring to behave atrociously in our territory? They are all masked, but judging from their aura, they should be from the Starfall domain. Even Jing Xian is here. The Starfall domain finally came to us." Lin Muyu shook her arm and rays of light bloomed. "I haven't fought for a long time and my hands are itching. Domain Lord Feng, go back and prepare. We will return to Dragon City in 3 days. We will discuss this first. Yes. Chapter 1034. When Lin Muyu and the others returned to Dragon City, it was noon. The city was filled with smoke and the atmosphere was peaceful. Outside the Dragon City Grand Hall, a group of servants and soldiers were waiting solemnly. Before they even walked up the stairs, Machi Lin had already brought Machi Lei and the others to greet them. His face was filled with indignation as he said, "How preposterous! They've gone too far." "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu asked with a frown. Machi Lin said, "The Starfall domain sent a letter. Take a look, Lin General." "What letter?" "It's an invitation." Lin Muyu took the letter and opened it. It was addressed to him, the leader of the Dragon League. There were only a few lines of concise words. The 64 domains were established by the ancient civilization. The domains should have lived in peace with each other. The 11 domains in the south have now become 8. The Starfall domain has obtained 2 treasures, the Star Chess and the 100 sectional staff. Therefore, they invite the experts of the domains to hold a treasure-seizing assembly in the Starfall domain on the 1st of next month. The treasures will belong to those who can obtain them. We hope that young hero Lin of the Dragon League will lead the experts of the Dragon League to attend the assembly. Zheng Xian thanks you. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were confused. Lin Muyu handed the letter to them. Machi Lin said angrily, "What treasure-seizing assembly? The Star Cluster chess was clearly stolen from the Saint Relic. This is simply despicable and shameless, holding a treasure-seizing assembly with the Star Cluster chess from the Saint Relic. The Falling Star domain is really a bunch of shameless people." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "This is not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is Zheng Xian and Dongfang Yan's real intention in holding the treasure-seizing assembly. Do they want to take the opportunity to get rid of the top experts of the southern domains?" "I don't think so." Feng Zhanlin said, "With the skills of Marshal Lin and Darren Shiyen, I'm afraid that Dongfang Yan and Zheng Xian are not their match. What's more, Zheng Xian was already defeated by Marshal Lin at the Dragon Union's grand ceremony. Unless, they have another backing but we don't know what this backing is," Lin Muyu asked. "Have Dongfang Yan and Zheng Xian made any moves in the past year?" Machi Lin cupped his fists and said, "Zheng Xian is in charge of the affairs of the Falling Star region, and he appears in public every month. Rumor has it that he is diligently practicing and improving the butterfly knife art. As for Dongfang Yan, there hasn't been any news about him in the past year. It's as if he disappeared from the world and no one knows what happened. It seems that the problem lies with Dongfang Yan." Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. "When is the 1st of next month?" 5 days later. "Let's get ready. We have to go or else Dragon City won't be able to survive in the south of the 64 regions." "Yes." Feng Zhanlin said, "Lin General, how many people are suitable for us to bring?" "Only 10 Emperor Gods will be enough. The rest will stay and guard Dragon City." "Yes." Lin Muyu walked into the hall and asked, "Are the participants only from the 8 southern regions?" "Yes, the Falling Star region only invited the 8 southern regions." Machi Lin said, "Besides the Falling Star region and our Dragon League, there are also the Skyway region, the Earth Carrier region, the Fire Qilin region, the Wind End region, the Silver River region and the Thunderrise region. Among them, our Dragon League is the strongest, followed by the Falling Star region, the Skyway region and the Earth Carrier region. The other 4 regions are weaker, and I'm afraid they won't be able to fight for the Star Chess and the 100-segment staff." "What kind of treasures are the Star Chess and the 100-segment staff? I forgot to ask Senior Luo Tianji at the Sacred Relic." Feng Zhanlin smiled. "The Star Chess, as the name suggests, is actually a chessboard that hides the mysteries of heaven. The black and white chess pieces can fly and injure people, and the Star Chess is a unique hidden weapon in the world. The 100-segment staff is a long staff similar to an iron rod, and it can be extended and retracted at will. It has 100 segments and it's very difficult to defend against it." "Are they all divine artifacts?" "According to the classification of the 64 regions, they should be second-grade divine artifacts, slightly lower than the Xinyuan sword and Yuhua zither, but 2 grades higher than the Star Sword. The Star Sword was a substandard divine artifact. It seemed that there was a 3rd-grade divine artifact among the 64 regions." Lin Muyu had a bad premonition and said, "This trip to the Falling Star region is no small matter. We must select our strongest Emperor Gods. Besides, no matter what the Falling Star region's intentions are, the Star Chess is a treasure of the Sacred Relic and I must take it back." "Yes, I understand." We won't go out for the next few days. Cultivate well and we will set off the day after tomorrow. We will arrive at the Falling Star region in 5 days. Lin General, can we walk there? Yes, don't fly. It's too conspicuous. Be careful. Yes. At night, in the Imperial Garden of Dragon City, it was very quiet in the autumn. The cool night breeze blew, bringing with it a faint fragrance of the wilderness, which made people feel relaxed and happy. In the small courtyard, Lin Muyu sat cross-legged on a flat rock, leaning against a short pine tree behind him. The invisible elephant divine power was circulating around his body slowly. He looked peaceful as though he was asleep. Lin Muyu had been maintaining this state of cultivation for the past few days. He did not deliberately circulate his power, he just let the power in his body circulate on its own. Meditation was a state of mind cultivation. Lin Muyu had the sovereign personality, but what he lacked was not power, but a kind of improvement in his state of mind. He had not reached this state yet, so he could only improve by thinking and seeking. Letting nature take its course, his aura seemed to merge with everything around him. Under the moonlight, 3 beauties sat facing each other, drinking tea by the tea table in the small courtyard. Xiaoyin, what level have you cultivated the Nuwa zither music score that Senior Luo Tianji gave you? Tang Xiaoxi suddenly asked. The 3rd level. Qin Yin smiled awkwardly. The power contained in the music score is too profound, and I can't understand it in a short time. I only cultivated to the 3rd level in a year. Do you want to try it for us? I haven't heard Xiaoyin play for a long time. That's not a good idea, right? Qin Yin glanced at Lin Muyu, who was on the rockery not far away, and said, Brother Yu is meditating. If I play the Nuwa zither, I'm afraid I'll disturb him. Shi Yin smiled lazily. Don't worry, he won't be disturbed. Yu has already entered a state of meditation, and nothing in the outside world can disturb him, unless there's a crisis. It just so happens that I want to see the power of the Nuwa zither music score. Come on, Xin, let me and Xiaoxi see it. Okay then. Qin Yin stood up and gently brushed her palm in front of her, and a dazzling jade zither appeared in front of her. It was the Nuwa zither. Qin Yin floated in the air, and the Nuwa zither floated in front of her. Her 5 jade-like fingers gently plucked the strings of the zither, and immediately, an elegant sound flowed out like flowing water. Nice. The corners of Tang Xiaoxi's mouth rose slightly, and a satisfied smile appeared on her face. Shi Yin also smiled. It's not as simple as just nice. That's right, if one looked carefully they would find that there were invisible gusts of wind flowing around Qin Yin's body, like a thick wall of wind to protect her, and at the same time, they could turn into wind blades to attack the intruders at any time. The first layer of the Nuwa zither music score, Wind Rising. The sound of the zither was gentle and light, and in the blink of an eye, it had reached the 2nd layer. The sound of the zither began to become rapid, like a downpour of rain, and the aura of the space also began to distort and ripple slightly. Invisible sound waves shuttled back and forth in the space, and every note contained extremely strong destructive power. However, as long as Qin Yin slightly changed the tone, these notes would seep into the surrounding flowers and plants, nourishing everything, just like the great kindness of the Nuwa zither music score. The 2nd layer of Nuwa zither music score, Spiritual Movement. Before the 3rd layer of music was played, Qin Yin's palms pressed down and stopped playing. She smiled and said, Okay, that's it. The power of the 3rd layer of music is too strong. It's better not to play it. The 3rd layer of music is the soul splitting, right? Shi Yin asked with a smile. Yes. Okay. Shi Yin said, I've read the music score. The power of the soul splitting can directly attack the opponent's soul with sound waves, which can cause a fatal blow. Such a move, it's right not to use it easily. Qin, do you want to use it in the treasure seizing conference of the Falling Star Field in 5 days? Qin Yin chuckled and said, It's okay. Well, it's a good opportunity to see how many masters there are in the other 7 fields. Shi Yan's eyes lit up and she said, If the Dragon League wants to dominate the south, the other 7 fields will be our stumbling blocks. We must make them surrender. Yes, I just don't know what Brother Yu is thinking. Qin Yin looked up into the distance and found Lin Muyu leaning against a tree, looking peaceful and comfortable. She was motionless, as if she had fallen into a deep sleep. Suddenly, Qin Yin felt a touch of warmth in her heart. Lin Muyu was born to be a cultivation genius. It was rare for her to enjoy the process of cultivation. Time passed quickly and 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu and the others set off on foot and left Dragon City. They passed through countless mountains on the way and arrived at the falling star field after 3 days. They didn't encounter any obstacles along the way. The people of the falling star field seemed to be preparing for the treasure-seizing conference, as if they were celebrating a festival. In the evening, Lin Muyu and the others entered the castle of the falling star field and were greeted with a very grand welcome. Zheng Xian personally led several God Emperor realm experts out of the castle to welcome them. In the evening, they held a banquet to entertain the masters of the 7 fields. The castle of the falling star field was built on a mountain which was very steep. The people of the Dragon League were arranged to rest in a row of buildings halfway up the mountain. In the wild, the stars were shining brightly. Lin Muyu couldn't sleep, so she strolled along the wooden corridor hanging on the mountain wall. Looking down, there was a huge square about a kilometer away, and above it was a high platform like an altar. Rustle. Footsteps came from behind. It was a familiar aura. Lin Muyu smiled. Xiaoyin, you can't sleep either? Well, yes. Qinyin was wearing a light red tight dress like a girl next door. She smiled and said, It's not that I can't sleep, but I was woken up by your footsteps. I'm already very light, sorry. Don't be so polite. What are you looking at? Here. Lin Muyu pointed to the altar in the distance. Qinyin squinted her flaming eyes and looked into the distance. She smiled and said, That's the longevity altar, right? The place where the ceremony is held in the falling star field. Tomorrow we will also fight for the star chess and the 100-segment staff there. I just don't know what the people of the falling star field are planning. Yes, the truth will be revealed tomorrow. Chapter 1035. Lin Muyu slowly let out a sigh of relief. Her breathing was long, and her spiritual energy seemed to have merged with the surrounding mountains and rivers. She could feel the pulse of spiritual energy between heaven and earth. Although the falling star domain was not the strongest among the 64 domains, the scenery in the falling star domain was probably the most spectacular and magnificent. At this moment, Lin Muyu suddenly felt a strange fluctuation of energy from the spiritual pulse technique. She smiled and said, Which expert is it? Since you're already here, why not show yourself? Qinyin was startled. She was a step slower than Lin Muyu. In the sky, a star-like person slowly descended. It was a handsome young man in white holding a sword. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and he had the bearing of a dragon or phoenix. This person slowly descended and cupped his hands with a smile. I've let the two of you see something embarrassing. This one is Murong Qianxing from the Skyline Domain. I didn't mean to eavesdrop on your conversation, but I was absorbing the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. So it's the domain lord of the Skyline Domain. My apologies. Lin Muyu smiled. I don't need to introduce myself, right? Murong Qianxing couldn't help but laugh. The famous leader of the Dragon League, Lin Muyu. There's no need to introduce yourself. This one, Murong Qianxing, has already seen Alliance leaders' heroic bearing in the Dragon League. I didn't think that today would be such a coincidence that the Dragon League's encampment was arranged here. As he spoke, Murong Qianxing bowed to Qinyin. This one greets Miss Qinyin. Qinyin faintly smiled. Domain Lord Murong doesn't need to be so polite. I'm very ashamed. Murong Qianxing said, Since Alliance leader Lin is here, I'm afraid that the Dragon League is determined to obtain the 2 treasures of the treasure-seizing assembly, right? I don't dare to say that. Lin Muyu said, There are many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in the 8 southern regions. We, the Dragon Alliance, should weigh our options carefully. Moreover, since the Fallen Star region set up this trap, they must be very confident. Who would be stupid enough to hand over the star chess and the 100-segment staff to someone else? Therefore, I personally feel that it won't be that easy. Region Lord Murong, isn't your Skyline region also? Murong Qianxing could not help but let out a carefree laugh. Alliance Master Lin, we are straightforward people. Let's not beat around the bush. The Star Luo chess is a treasure that has been lost for many years, and the 100-segment staff is also a divine weapon. Who wouldn't want it? As long as we have these 2 divine artifacts as the treasures of our regions, I'm afraid we'll be able to attract many talented people. It'll be of great benefit to any region. What do you think, Alliance leader Lin? Yeah, treasures are always good stuff. Lin Muyu held onto the wooden railing and lowered her head to look at the longevity altar. She said, It's just that I don't know how many people will be injured or even lose their lives because of these 2 treasures. Region Lord Murong, please take care of yourself. Murong Qianxing was startled, then he smiled and said, Yes, I'll remember. Thank you for your warning, Alliance Master Lin. Tomorrow, let's take one step at a time. If we can fight for the treasures, then we'll fight for them. If we can't, then we'll just give up. Yeah, Murong Tianxing looked deeply at Qin Yin and said, then, take your time, I won't disturb you anymore. Go ahead. In the blink of an eye, Murong Tianxing turned into a ray of light and flew towards the heavenly cauldron. He needed to absorb more light from the sun and moon to cultivate his strength. He was the youngest region lord in the 64 regions, and also the youngest god emperor expert who was close to the perfection realm. He was indeed extraordinary. The next day, before the sky had even brightened, the sound of gongs and drums could be heard. There were even servants in the corridor shouting at the top of their lungs, "It's time for breakfast! It's time for breakfast!" Lin Muyu rubbed his eyes and sat up from the bed. Suddenly, a bloody scene flashed through his mind. He couldn't help but be startled. It was his premonition ability. Nothing good would happen today. After washing up, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Shi Yan also arrived. Soon after, Feng Zhanlin, Mochi Lin, Fuzhu and the others also arrived. Two servants raised the Dragon League's flag and led everyone to the dining area. Breakfast was very simple. Some food similar to sweet potatoes, steamed buns and mushroom soup. It was delicious, healthy and non-toxic. After breakfast, everyone was led to the longevity altar by the meteor falling domain's servants. This place was going to be charred today. The longevity altar was a towering octagonal altar. Moreover, it was not made of stone, but rather a transparent and resplendent altar. The people of the Dragon League were arranged to the southern side of the longevity altar, closer to the host's house. This was probably to show the status of the Dragon League in the 8 southern regions. Feng Zhanlin said in a low voice, "Do you see, Lin General? The high platform of the longevity altar is made of divine essences. These divine essences are very rare and precious, and they are indestructible. Apart from first-rate divine artifacts, nothing else can break them. A divine essence the size of a shield is priceless, but the meteor falling domain actually used divine essences to build a high platform. It's too extravagant. After so many years, no one has come to steal the divine essences? There have been, but the meteor falling domain and the raging fire domain are on good terms. With these two domains united, who in the 11 southern regions would dare to steal the divine essences? As for the heaven-devouring domain and the others in the central region, they don't care for the divine essences. They would never ruin the prestige and reputation they have established in the 64 regions for a mere divine essences. Lin Muyu nodded and didn't continue to ask questions. She just accompanied Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, chatting from time to time. When the experts of the 7 regions had taken their seats, the meteor falling domain's domain lord, Zheng Xian, strapped his lancet to his waist and stood up with a smile. He cupped his fists and said, "First of all, thank you all for coming to the meteor falling domain. This treasure-seizing assembly is not only for exchanging pointers, but also for harmonizing the relationship between the 8 southern regions. The 64 regions have been in constant war, and this state of affairs should indeed change." As he said this, Zheng Xian shouted, "Guards, please bring out the treasures." A few servants and guards came out with treasures. There was a small and exquisite chessboard and a scepter shaped like a withered pine tree. It glowed faintly and was very beautiful. Zheng Xian's face was full of pride. The 100-sectional staff was originally a treasure of my starfall domain, and the star-scattered chess is a treasure that I obtained recently. This time I'll take out these 2 treasures and share the prosperity with the other 7 domains in the south and reward them together. Guards, read the rules of the treasure-seizing assembly. Yes. A divine king realm expert walked forward with a scroll in his hand and said loudly, "The first rule of the treasure-seizing assembly, all challengers must sign a life and death contract. Weapons have no eyes and if they die, it has nothing to do with others. The second rule, all challengers must use their own treasures as collateral. If they fail, the treasures will belong to the winner. The third rule, the battle will end before sunset, and the winner will get all the treasures including the star-scattered chess and the scepter." The crowd was in an uproar. Everyone knew that they were here for the treasures, but they did not expect that they would have to give up their treasures. Suddenly, a man with chest hair said, "This is a big joke. Why do we need to give up our treasures for the treasure-seizing assembly? What kind of **T rule did you set in the meteor falling domain?" The Divine King Realm expert immediately explained with a smile, "Sir, you may not know this, but this rule is to prevent people from fighting one after another. If that happens, the winner on the stage will be exhausted to death. Only by giving up their best treasures can they be qualified to challenge. Moreover, the treasures will be more abundant, and it will stimulate the desire to seize the treasures." The burly man was rendered speechless by his words. Zheng Xian smiled faintly and said, "Shuefei, you go first." "Yes." A hierarch realm expert landed on the stage and cupped his fists at the experts from the 7 regions. "I'm Shuefei, I will go first. Anyone can challenge me." The crowd was silent. Lin Muyu frowned. She had already cursed all 18 generations of Zheng Xian's ancestors in her heart. This shameless bastard actually sent a hierarch realm expert to his death. He was really trying to catch a whale with an earthworm. The competition would end at night. Whoever went up now would lose. No one was stupid. The experts from the 7 major domains were all silent. They looked at each other, but no one stepped onto the stage. Cough, cough. An expert from the earth-bearing domain said, "Domain Lord Murong, you are the strongest rising star in recent years. You should be the one to take first place." Murong Qinxing cupped his fists and smiled politely. "I am not talented, I will watch first." Feng Zhanlin crossed his arms and smiled. Only an idiot would go up now. Lin Muyu nodded in agreement. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, widened their beautiful eyes as they looked at everyone around them. It was all thanks to Qin Yin's improvement in cultivation that she was able to better control the Eyes of Blazing Dawn. If it was in the past, the domain of the Eyes of Blazing Dawn would have swept through the entire longevity altar, and this place would have exploded. Fuzhu smiled faintly. "Looks like the meteorite domain is going for wool and came home shorn. It's really interesting to play such a trick. Let's see how this idiot Zheng Xian will embarrass himself in front of the 7 regions." Lin Muyu glanced at him. "I don't think so. Who knows, there might really be an idiot who would challenge it now." "Why, master?" "For the sense of existence." Sure enough, before Lin Muyu's voice faded, a burly man flew up the stage with a spear in his hand. He cupped his fists and said, "I am Qiu Lang from the Wind's End domain. I offer my star-piercing spear as a pledge. Please enlighten me." "Wait a moment." Zheng Xian gestured with his eyes and a guard walked forward with a tray. There was a life and death contract on it. Qiu Lang did not even look at it and pressed his fingerprint on it. He grinned and said, "Can we start now?" Shuefei nodded. Qiu Lang roared. His spear turned into streaks of light and pierced forward. He was a god king, so it was normal for him to look down on Shuefei. In less than 10 moves, Shuefei could no longer hold on. Swish. Qiu Lang's spear went straight for Shuefei's chest. "Have mercy!" Zheng Xian hurriedly shouted. But it was too late. The spear pierced through Shuefei's heart. Qiu Lang turned his wrist and pulled out the spear, but Shuefei had already fallen off the stage dead. The domain lords of the 7 major territories fell silent once more. This was not a good start. Not far away, Zheng Xian's expression was very ugly. Qiu Lang was not giving him any face. Chapter 1036. Raising the star-piercing spear high up, Qiu Lang said proudly, "Who wants to challenge me?" Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi all frowned in silence. There had always been people who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, and Qiu Lang, who had cultivated to the God King realm, was actually so arrogant. He didn't even put the hundreds of God Kings present in his eyes. This kind of person was even more frighteningly ignorant. Under Qiu Lang's provocation, the hundreds of people present actually didn't accept the challenge. Almost everyone just remained silent or chatted with each other. The treasure hunt ended too late, and it would only end at sunset. Anyone who went up now would only be courting death. The situation was in a deadlock until noon. After everyone finished their lunch, the treasure hunt continued. When the time was about to end, there was less than 2 hours left before sunset. Finally, someone accepted the challenge. It was a young cultivator with dual swords in his hands. He was from the Earth Carrier region. Swoosh! The young man walked on the wind and stood proudly on the high platform. His dual swords were naturally lowered as he said with a smile, "I am Wang Xiang of the Earth Carrier region. I hope Lord Qiu Lang can give me some pointers." Qiu Lang sat on the ground with the star-piercing spear across his legs. He was almost asleep, but Wang Xiang's appearance made him energetic. He immediately stood up and said with a smile, "Great, someone finally came to challenge me. Kid, don't talk so much. What are you going to use as a bargaining chip?" Wang Xiang raised his long sword lightly. "This pair of glazed dual sword has been with me for many years. It is a substandard divine artifact. It should be enough as a bargaining chip, right?" "Alright, I will take this pair of dual swords." Qiu Lang jumped up and his figure blended into the flames. The long spear instantly pierced forward like a falling meteor towards Wang Xiang's chest. It had the momentum to pierce through his heart. However, Wang Xiang was no longer the Su Fei from before. He raised his dual glaze swords to parry. Dang! The two domain cyclones collided, and the air was filled with the sound of explosions. Qiu Lang quickly made his move, and for a moment, the sky was filled with layers of spear afterimages, filled with raging flames. Meanwhile, Wang Xiang's dual glaze sword swept through the flames. Qiu Lang's law of fire was fierce and overbearing, while Wang Xiang's law of wind was light and flexible. After exchanging nearly 20 moves, Wang Xiang suddenly shouted and crossed his two swords. With a dang sound, Qiu Lang's star-piercing spear was sent flying. Under Qiu Lang's horrified gaze, Wang Xiang swung his two swords continuously, leaving bloody gashes on Qiu Lang's chest. At least 20 slashes were launched in an instant, but none of them were fatal. Instead, Qiu Lang was so frightened that his face turned pale, and he knelt on the ground weakly. Why didn't you kill me? Qiu Lang asked. I'm not you, why would I want to kill you? Wang Xiang abruptly kicked Qiu Lang off the stage. Cheers immediately rang out from below the stage. Wang Xiang is indeed worthy of being the Earth-bearing region's Imperial Wind Dragon. Zheng Xian clapped his hands and laughed. This battle Wang Xiang wins, Qiu Lang loses. Wang Xiang politely bowed with his two swords hanging upside down on the stage, then looked indifferently at the audience, waiting for the next challenger. What a good dual sword style. Lin Muyu praised softly. To be able to maintain his composure after dozens of moves, this Wang Xiang sword style is indeed not simple. It's a pity that his cultivation is too low. If he had advanced to the God Emperor realm, he would definitely be a promising talent. Qin Yin smiled faintly but didn't say anything. It was a good thing that Lin Muyu cherished talent. Otherwise, if she was jealous of talent, she wouldn't be able to achieve anything in the 64 regions, although most of the God realm experts here were like that. Tang Xiaoxi said, Isn't Xiaoyin going to challenge? When will she go if not now? There's no rush, let's wait a little longer. Qin Yin pursed her red lips. I want to see how many more experts have yet to fight. Yes. Before he had even finished speaking, a white-haired young man leapt onto the stage with a battle hammer in his hand. He propped the hammer against a divine crystal and said, I am Lei Yuming, the leader of the Purple Thunder Hall of the Thunderrise Zone. I am here to challenge you with a third-tier god artifact, the Purple Thunder Hammer. The Purple Thunder Hammer was a third-grade divine weapon. This Lei Yuming was also a God Emperor realm expert, and the power of 68 waves could be faintly seen between his breaths. Wang Xiang frowned. Lei Yuming? What can't I? Lei Yuming smiled faintly and pressed the seal of life and death on the guard's tray. Wang Xiang, let's have a showdown at the treasure-seizing assembly today. Very well, I couldn't ask for more. Wang Xiang raised his eyebrows. Even though he was facing an opponent with a higher cultivation level, he still revealed an eagerness to fight. This was a rare sight. Below the stage, Feng Zhanlin whispered, I'm afraid this battle won't end so easily. Why do you say so? Lin Muyu asked. Feng Zhanlin said, Lin General, you may not know this, but the Earth-bearing region and Thunderrise region are adjacent to each other, and the two regions are constantly at war. Just a few days ago, there was a bloody battle in which 3 God Realm experts died, and one of them was Lei Yuming's brother, Lei Yusong. Moreover, the one who killed Lei Yusong is this Wang Xiang, so the two are mortal enemies. Lei Yuming will definitely kill him. Oh, I see. Lin Muyu was relieved. I just hope Wang Xiang doesn't die on the stage. After all, the disparity in strength was too great. Wang Xiang was only a God King with 58 Grotto Heavens, but his opponent was a God Emperor with a third-grade divine weapon. Be it in terms of strength or weapon, Wang Xiang didn't have the upper hand. As they spoke, the sparks and lightning clashed on the stage. Lei Yuming's battle technique was vigorous and powerful. He waved his war hammer like a fortress, and lightning wreaked havoc, forming a sharp force field. Wang Xiang could only swing his sword and use the law of wind to try to cut into Lei Yuming's force field, but he couldn't do anything. In the blink of an eye, Wang Xiang's god wall started to crumble. It's over, Wang Xiang is going to lose. Tang Xiaoxi curled her lips. Lin Muyu's god power was already surging in her body, and she looked like she was about to make a move. Mu, you want to make a move? Tang Xiaoxi asked in shock. No, I want to save him. Lin Muyu squinted her eyes. It's enough to decide the victor, there's no need to decide life and death. I'm going to save Wang Xiang. On the stage, lightning surged. After close to 30 rounds of fighting, Lei Yuming roared, and used his absolute strength to completely destroy Wang Xiang's god wall. The purple thunder hammer swept across, and before it could even reach Wang Xiang's glass dual sword, Wang Xiang's eyes were wide open, and he could only watch as the purple thunder hammer destroyed his body. Don't kill him. On the Earth Carrier region spectator stand, the region lord had already stood up, but he didn't really go forward to stop it. Instead, a figure appeared between Wang Xiang and Lei Yuming with shocking speed. A smear of golden light shone. It was the Shenyuan sword, and it went straight for the purple thunder hammer. Peng! The air current surged, accompanied by golden radiance and raging flames. Lin Muyu's power was extremely strong. Although she was only defending, she was still able to send Lei Yuming, who was also a celestial the arch, flying more than 10 meters away. For a moment Wang Xiang was stunned. Lin? Alliance Lord Lin? Lei Yuming almost wanted to avenge his brother. He couldn't help but roar. Lin Muyu, what is the meaning of this? Don't you know that bystanders shouldn't participate in a fight? This is a one-on-one duel, not a gang fight. Lin Muyu's face was apologetic. She smiled. I know I shouldn't interfere in your duel, but obviously Wang Xiang has lost. You don't need to take his life, right? Saying that, Lin Muyu turned around. Wang Xiang, admit defeat, at least you can live. Wang Xiang was still in shock. He reluctantly handed over the glass dual sword. Lei Yuming, I Wang Xiang admit defeat. Saying that, he said in a low voice, Alliance Lord Lin, thank you. I Wang Xiang will forever remember your life-saving grace. No need to be polite, go back. N. Wang Xiang floated away, and when Lin Muyu was about to leave, Lei Yuming roared, Lin Muyu, stop right there. What's wrong? Lin Muyu floated in the air, looking at her opponent. Her Chiyu armor reflected a majestic and beautiful luster under the sunlight, and the Shenyuan sword in her hand surged with an invincible momentum. Lei Yuming was taken aback by Lin Muyu's aura. How could a mere junior have such an outstanding aura? Lei Yuming couldn't understand it, but since he had called out to Lin Muyu, he needed an explanation. Lei Yuming braced himself and said, This is a grudge between our Thunderrise region and Earth-bearing region. Who do you think the Dragon Alliance is? Do you think you can uphold justice with numbers? Don't make me laugh my head off. Since you, Lin Muyu, are here as the leader of the Dragon League, then don't leave, at least not before you defeat me. But I don't want to fight you, Lin Muyu said lightly. Why? You're too weak. You. Lei Yuming was so angry that his knuckles cracked. Your Dragon League dares to cause trouble, yet you don't dare to take responsibility? Come, win against my purple thunder hammer first. Then, Lin Muyu gripped the Shenyuan sword. She didn't want to fight so early, but now she was a little shaken. This Lei Yuming really didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, and needed to be taught a lesson. At this time, Qinin suddenly stood up. You let me do it. Xiaoyin wants to fight? That's fine. Lin Muyu said cheerfully, then I'll let you have this stupid cow. Just defeat it, but don't kill it. Qinin leapt onto the stage, but her feet didn't touch the ground. She took out a sharp sword and said, Stellar sword, a substandard god artifact, I'll use it as a bargaining chip. Lei Yuming couldn't help but be stunned. The beauty in front of him looked familiar. He seemed to have seen her at the Dragon Alliance's founding ceremony. However, he didn't know that she was also a godly state expert. He thought that she was just Lin Muyu's woman. After Qinin made a hand seal, she put away the stellar sword and put her hands together in front of her chest, then separated. Suddenly, a bright light began to gather, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a radiant zither. It was the zither of Nuwa. Quietly standing in the air, Qinin smiled, Please enlighten me. Don't think I won't hit you just because you're a woman. Lei Yuming shouted, Lin Muyu is meddling in other people's business, his woman deserves to be hit. Do you have what it takes? Qin Yin's lips curled into a beautiful dimple. If I don't, I'll just get beaten up. Lei Yuming raised his warhammer and swept out with a buzzing sound, giving off an aura that could shake mountains and seas. Chapter 1037. Qin Yin's beautiful and graceful figure was wrapped in a light red, wide-sleeved cloud dress. She rotated gently in the air, accompanied by the beautiful melody of the Nuwa zither. Suddenly, waves of wind power swirled rapidly, isolating Lei Yuming's flame power. It seemed that Qinin was dancing in the flames, but in fact she was not hurt at all. Peng! The purple thunder hammer was knocked back in mid-air, the lightning energy rampaging through the air. Lei Yuming's face was full of shock. He didn't even know what had blocked his attack. That was the power of the wind and space laws. With Lei Yuming's cultivation, he naturally couldn't see it. Qin didn't say anything. Her fingers moved like butterflies, and in the blink of an eye, a few strands of the Nuwa Zither's first move flew out. Each strand was a profound attack. Ha! Lei Yuming was a god emperor after all. His warhammer suddenly smashed a zither note onto the ground. Immediately, golden light burst forth. That was the power of the light element. Lei Yuming's eyes were almost blinded. His entire body felt like it was being burned by fire. Only the heavens knew how this girl could fuse the power of light, space, and wind element at the same time. When the second strand of music arrived, Lei Yuming couldn't block it anymore. He could only dodge. He leaped up, and the strand of music flew past his feet, hitting the divine crystals behind him. There was a buzzing sound, and even the surface of the divine crystals started to peel. It was easy to imagine how powerful Qin Yin's attack was. Buzz. The third strand of music couldn't be avoided, and it destroyed Lei Yuming's divine wall. The power passed through his body, and for a moment, Lei Yuming's body was in chaos. He fell to the ground and vomited blood. He hurriedly raised his arm. I admit defeat. Qin Yin smiled faintly and stopped her attack. With a light brush of her palm, the Nuwa Zither nimbly circled around her slender waist and hung naturally on her back. Then she bowed gently and said, "Thank you for letting me win." Lei Yuming coughed a few more times. This time he left the purple thunder hammer, cupped his fists and walked off the stage. Ha ha ha. Wonderful. It's absolutely brilliant. Below the stage, Zheng Xian clapped his hands and laughed. Lady Qin Yin's martial arts cultivation is so high, it's really surprising. In our prehistoric mystery realm, it's really rare for a woman to be able to cultivate to this level. With Miss Qin Yin's cultivation, I'm sure she's highly regarded in Dragon City. At the very least, she's a region lord, right? Qin Yin smiled faintly. You flatter me, domain lord. I'm not a hall master. I'm just Brother Yu's maid. Oh, when did you become a maid? Our great empress. Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. Lin Muyu was also speechless. Qin Yin's words were too flattering for her. However, who was Zheng Xian? How could he not understand? He immediately smiled and said, Leader Lin of the Dragon League has a beauty like Lady Qin Yin. He has no regrets in life. It's so enviable. Lin Muyu was very satisfied with this. She said loudly, since it's a competition for treasures, then treasures should be the priority. So, my Xiaoyin is on the stage. Please teach me, but don't fight with your lives. Lin Muyu thanks everyone here. Shi Yin and Tang Xiaoxi both smiled. Lin Muyu's words were a bit like a warning to the tiger. The Mai Xiaoyin had already made her position clear. If anyone hurt Qin Yin, they would probably offend the entire Dragon League. Currently, the Dragon League was powerful enough to dominate the entire southern region of the 64 regions. Who would dare to not give them some face? After a few minutes, the next challenger appeared. It was the region lord of the Fire Qilin region, Xinjun. He was an elder over 1,000 years old, but his cultivation had reached 85 grotto heavens. He held an iron staff in his hand and looked hale and hearty. He stood proudly in the sky and said with a smile, This old man is Xinjun. Please teach me, Lady Qin Yin. This Xianming staff is a third-class divine artifact. Let's use it as a bargaining chip. Qin Yin bowed gracefully and said with a smile, Then Region Lord Xinjun, please teach me. All right. Xinjun let out a low roar and waved the Xianming staff in the air. Suddenly the sky changed color and a storm swirled rapidly. It was as if he could summon wind and thunder. Xinjun cultivated the laws of wind and thunder. Furthermore, he had cultivated them for thousands of years. One could imagine how profound his skills were. As the Xianming staff danced, bolts of lightning shot towards Qin Yin, who was on the high platform like giant palms. Everyone was astonished. The people of the Fire Qilin region either didn't make a move or their attacks were so frightening. This Xinjun might be an elder, but the might of his attacks far surpassed those in the prime of their lives. On the ground, Qin Yin's hands lightly stroked the strings of the zither. Instantly, the wind blew and a strong gale wrapped around her elegant figure, protecting her from the corrosion of the wind and thunder. At the same time, she activated the second move of Nuwa's zither score, nimble movement. The sound of the zither rang out and rays of spiritual light rushed into the sky, clashing with Xinjun's lightning power. Instantly, the entire longevity altar turned dark. Two experts fighting against each other was a rare sight. Alright, again. After the first wave of attacks was blocked by Qin Yin, Xinjun's battle intent rose. He waved the Xianming staff repeatedly and sent down even stronger lightning power. At this moment, he didn't seem like the lord of a region, but more like a fierce god that could summon the wind and rain. Amidst the countless whirlwinds, Qin Yin's long dress fluttered and her beautiful face had a trace of worry. Spirit pearls of law emerged from her body, looking magnificent and magnificent. At the same time, under the summon of the power, the golden god-binding chains hidden in the depths of her body also danced and spread out, like golden kelp in the deep sea. And it was precisely because of this that Qin Yin looked like a fairy singing in the deep sea, stunning all the men present. Even a god would still be moved after seeing such a beautiful scene. Thus, at this moment, everyone wished that old man Shinjun in the sky could die immediately. No one cared if he was a senior or not. If he dared to destroy such a beautiful thing, then he was a bastard. However, there was no need for everyone to curse him. After Qin Yin displayed the power of the Master God Lattice, her aura still reversed. The zither sounds interweaved in the air, and in less than 50 moves, Shinjun was already overwhelmed. Enough! Suddenly Shinjun, who was in the sky, put down the Shinming staff and said while panting, "Miss Qin Yin, I admit defeat. My asthma is about to act up." Qin Yin was stunned. Shinjun landed quickly, put down the Shinming staff, and walked down the stage with his hands clasped behind his back like an angry old cadre. What a straightforward region lord. Everyone started to like Shinjun again. Qin Yin floated in the air above the high platform. Her messy skirt was smoothed out like a waterfall, but her little face had become red. The battle just now had consumed at least 20% of her divine power. After all, Shinjun's strength was not fake. He was a dignified 85 heavenly abode emperor. If it was an ordinary god-state expert, they would have knelt down and begged for mercy and admitted defeat. However, Qin Yin defeated him with the cultivation of 77 heavenly abode realm. She had already proved herself. Miss Qin Yin wins. Region Lord Shinjun loses. Zheng Xian announced loudly and continued, "There's not much time left. Who else wants to challenge Miss Qin Yin of the Dragon League? Please go up the stage now." The stalemate lasted for less than 3 minutes. All the regions were talking about it. In the end, someone from the Yinjiang region and the Fongjin region stood up and floated up. He was a middle-aged man who was about 40 years old. He cupped his fists and said with a smile, "I'm Jianghu Yang, the region lord of the Yinjiang region. Please enlighten me, Miss Qin Yin." As he spoke, he took out a pair of short knives. The 2 knives were so short that they were less than 20 centimeters long. However, the cold light on the blades was very scary. Jianghu Yang smiled faintly and said, "My weapons are called emerald dual knives. They are famous for close combat. So, Miss Qin Yin, you'd better be careful. Don't let me get close to you. Otherwise you'll be in danger." "Thank you for the reminder, Region Lord." Qin Yin nodded happily. After Jianghu Yang signed the life and death contract, he stood on the high platform and faced Qin Yin from afar. He held his 2 sabers in a reverse grip and lowered his center of gravity slightly. Streaks of dark light flowed on the surface of his body, and he disappeared in the blink of an eye. Disappeared? He disappeared. The experts of the major domains were all dumbfounded. Very few people had ever seen Jianghu Yang make a move, but this time, it was too strange. Disappearing, this was not as simple as breaking through the void or flying at high speed. This was disappearing without leaving a trace. He didn't disappear. Lin Muyu frowned and said, "It's the dark light rule. I've seen it in the Sparrow region." Feng Zhanlin said, "That's right. It's the dark light rule. Only those who practice the dark light rule can disappear without a trace. It's a camouflage. However, this Jianghu Yang's dark light rule is much more powerful and profound than the one Lin general killed by mistake. Note that one. I can't remember his name. I couldn't find it when I went back. Let's just treat it as that one. Looks like Xiao Yin is getting serious this time." Tang Xiaoxi pursed her lips and smiled. She's always been serious. Lin Muyu looked at the stage and saw that Qin Yin had already activated the first form of Nuwa's zither music score. Storms swirled around her, not giving her opponent any chance to attack. However, she couldn't sense Jianghu Yang's position at all. That was the scariest part. Where is he? Where is he? Qin Yin squinted her beautiful eyes and looked at the void around her. She couldn't sense Jianghu Yang's aura at all. After nearly half a minute, a cold glint suddenly attacked from behind. It had appeared. Qin Yin quickly turned around. She didn't have time to gather her music, so she used Nuwa strings to block it. As expected, a small jade knife chopped on the strings. Unfortunately, Nuwa was a first-class artifact. The jade knife couldn't even cut through the strings. Just as the jade knife left her forehead, Qin waved her hand. The music turned into a shockwave and swept out. Swoosh, Jianghu was extremely fast. He quickly hid in the darkness and entered the dark light invisibility state again. However, this time, Qin wouldn't be careless. She opened her eyes gently and a golden light burst out. The eyes of blazing light was fully activated. Hum hum hum. The surrounding area was quickly controlled by the eyes of blazing light. Even the people from the 8 regions who were watching from below the stage felt uncomfortable, as if they were about to be evaporated. What is that? What kind of power is that? Everyone was frightened by the eyes of blazing light. Jianghu's figure appeared in the rising flames. He had nowhere to hide. Chapter 1038. Flames rose and evaporated. Moreover, these were not pure flames, but flames derived from the scorching law of light. Their lethality was even more astonishing. Although it was only a domain, it already made Jianghu feel like he was in a purgatory cage. Every inch of his skin was burning under the blazing light, and it was almost impossible for him to move. However, Jianghu was an 86th celestial the arch-expert, and also the lord of a domain. How could he admit defeat so easily? He swung the daggers in his hands, and his body spun rapidly like a windmill. Qin took advantage of the opportunity to bring along the Nuwa zither, and the simple and exquisite zither was tied to her back. She raised the star sword with both hands and suddenly rays of light rose sharply. With a wung-wung sound, the sharp sword released hundreds and thousands of sword shadows. It was the first strike of Shi Yan's 7 strikes, split. Dang 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 dang, sparks flew everywhere and in an instant the weapons of both sides collided nearly 100 times. Jianghu felt a chill in his heart. He originally thought that the sword shadows produced by Qin were all illusions, but he didn't expect that every sword shadow was real, and his arm was numb and hot. Be careful. Qin smile seemed to be able to melt glaciers and it made Jianghu, who was shrouded in flames, tremble. But the next moment, an even sharper sword broke through the wind. Shi Yan's 7 slashes, second strike, judgment. At this moment, 4 golden wings of light gradually appeared behind Qin's back. They were dazzling and gorgeous. Jianghu was forced to take a few steps back by the impact of judgment. Without any hesitation, he immediately launched 2 consecutive attacks, destruction and mercy. When Qin retracted her sword and turned around, all the domains around her were frozen. Even the rising flames were condensed in the air. Jianghu's perlicue had been shaken to the point of bleeding, and he couldn't move at all. At this time, if Qin wanted to take his life, it was simply too simple. Miss Qin, I admit defeat. A wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. Jianghu quickly said, I am willing to leave the emerald dual daggers, I am convinced. Qin quickly dispersed her divine power and said with a smile, thanks for letting me win. When Jianghu put down his sabers, Zheng Xian announced, Miss Qin of the Dragon League wins. Jianghu, the region lord of the Yinjiang region, loses. He purposely emphasized the word Silver River region lord. Jianghu's face was immediately filled with shame, and he angrily walked off the stage. At this moment, all the people in the 8 southern regions were silent, including the region lords. Almost everyone was thinking about how unfathomable the strength of the Dragon League was. A beautiful girl beside Lin Muyu could defeat Xinjun and Jianghu, who were at the level of region lords. Tang Xiaoxi could not be any worse. Moreover, the most terrifying one should be Shi Yan, who was the most leisurely one. She was the strongest one. Looking at Lin Muyu as the powerful lord of the Dragon League, he showed prudence and kindness. It seemed that the Dragon League had great ambitions. No one knew what the real purpose of the Dragon League was. Perhaps it was the whole 64 regions? Is there anyone else who wants to challenge Miss Qin? Zheng Xian glanced at the setting sun in the distance. The sun was about to set. Once the battle was over, the star chest 100-segment staff, jade dual knives, glazed dual swords, and other treasures would all belong to Qin. The final winner would be the Dragon League, who had come from afar. Below the stage, a group of region lords were silent. Suddenly, Jianghu, who had just lost, rushed to Murong Tianxing and said, Region Lord Murong, you are the #1 expert of the Tianxing region and also a famous expert. If you don't go and challenge Miss Qin, I'm afraid that the limelight of this treasure-seizing conference will be stolen by the Dragon League. Murong Tianxing gracefully sat on his seat and cupped his fists with a smile. No need to be so polite. Miss Qin is my friend, how could I make a move? Moreover, Miss Qin Yin's talent is unparalleled. Her becoming the champion of this treasure-seizing conference is also expected by everyone. Jianghu Yang snorted but didn't say anything. The deputy region lord next to him sneered. Murong Qianxing has always prided himself on being a benevolent gentleman. He would never make a move against a woman, let alone such an outstanding beauty. Murong Qianxing must have heard it, but he just smiled and didn't say anything. Shunjun laughed and said, "It seems that the champion of this treasure-seizing conference is definitely Miss Qin Yin. This old man congratulates the Dragon League and Lord Lin." Everyone knew that the treasures in this treasure-seizing conference were secondary. What mattered the most was the strength of a region. In this era of great competition, whoever was stronger would be more trustworthy. Once Qin Yin became the champion, the prestige and status of the Dragon League in the 8 southern regions would be unparalleled. On the stage, Qin Yin was still hugging the Nuwa zither, quietly floating in the air. Her eyes were indifferent as she looked at everyone around her. She didn't care about the treasures. What she really cared about was how strong she could become. Training her cultivation was the real purpose of this trip. Just when everyone thought that Qin Yin was about to become the champion, suddenly, a strange and eerie voice came from the great hall far away from the longevity altar. In the dignified 64 regions, there is actually no one who can deal with a little girl. What a shame, what a joke, this old man feels ashamed for you region lords. This voice was extremely eerie, as if it came from a grave, making everyone's hair stand on end. Everyone looked over and saw a man in a black robe slowly walking over from the great hall. His footsteps seemed slow, but his speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he was already on the longevity altar. A faint sound of thunder came from the scabbard on his back. Dang dang dang. 3 flying swords shuttled back and forth, and a cloud of blood rapidly condensed in the air. "Who is it?" Feng Zhanlin shouted from the stand. Lin Muyu also stood up and said, "Take off your cloak, let us see who you are, and whether you are qualified to participate in this treasure-seizing assembly. Quick." Hee. The newcomer laughed ferociously. He slowly took off his cloak, revealing his white hair and beard. It was an old man, but his face was very frightening. It didn't look like a human's face at all. It was full of ulcers and traces of ulcers, and even one of his eyes was gone, turning into a rotten hole. The other eye was glowing with a faint green light, making everyone's heart tremble. Dongfang Yan. Murong Tianxing recognized him. After all, the flying swords on Dongfang Yan's back hadn't changed. The names of the flying swords were also known by the people of the 8 southern regions. Rainbow Light, Morning Dew, Flaming Blade. The flying swords were still there, but Dongfang Yan looked neither human nor ghost. His face was almost rotten, and the 3 flying swords also contained a very strong death aura. Dongfang Yan sneered and said, "This old man's raging fire region has been invaded, and now I have joined the Falling Star region, and was appointed as a protector by the region Lord Zheng Xian. Do I, as a protector of the Falling Star region, have the qualifications to participate in the treasure-seizing assembly?" Zheng Xian said, "Of course you do." But, Murong Tianxing frowned and said, "Why did the region Lord Dongfang become like this? Could it be that you have already entered the corpse-nurturing forbidden area to practice the death-forbidden art? The region Lord Dongfang should know that the death-forbidden art in the corpse-nurturing planes is the shame of the divine world. The 64 regions have already issued a wanted order. Anyone who practices the death-forbidden art will be killed." Dongfang Yan laughed loudly and suddenly opened his palm. Immediately, a dark death energy lingered in the air, turned into a cold wind and rushed towards Murong Tianxing. "You!" Murong Tianxing's hands quickly formed a circle, and his long sword whistled as it met Dongfang Yan's attack head-on. Bang! At the same time that Dongfang Yan's attack was dispersed, Murong Tianxing was also forced to retreat in a sorry state. He heavily crashed on the stone steps and shattered countless stones. Dongfang Yan sneered and said, "Power is power. What's the difference between divine power and the death-forbidden art? It's simply nonsense. Those old rules were abandoned thousands of years ago, and Region Lord Murong is the leader of a region. How can you be so inflexible? In short, I, Dongfang Yan, must participate in this treasure-seizing assembly. There's not much time left. Is Miss Qin Yin ready?" Murong Tianxing saw that he couldn't stop Dongfang Yan, so he shouted, "Miss Qin Yin, be careful of the death-forbidden art." Qin Yin nodded, "Thank you, Region Lord." At the same time, Lin Muyu flew into the air and stood on the stage facing Dongfang Yan. Raising her hand, she said, "Xiaoyin, you can go down." This is the grudge between me and Dongfang Yen, let us settle it. Qin Yin couldn't bear it and said, Brother Yu always lets me stand behind him as if Xiao Yin will always be a burden to Brother Yu. This time, let Xiao Yin try first? I also want to protect you this once. Lin Muyu was slightly taken aback. She could not help but feel a pang in her heart. For so many years, Qin Yin had been desperately chasing after her cultivation and realm. Wasn't it all for the sake of being worthy of her? If he refuted her here, how could it be said that he loved her? He coldly looked at Dongfang Yen and didn't say anything. Dongfang Yen also looked at him with one eye, and his eyes were full of hatred. He sneered, Leader Lin, don't worry. I will take good care of your confidant. Lin Muyu frowned, Xiao Yin, you must be careful. Don't try to be brave. If you can't defeat him, immediately admit defeat. Everyone and I will protect you. Okay. Qin Yin nodded with a smile, don't worry, it'll be fine. Okay. Lin Muyu slowly walked down the stage and didn't return to her seat. She raised her hand and pulled out the Xianyuan sword, standing under the stage like a god of war. At such a close distance, even if Qin Yin really couldn't defeat him, at least Lin Muyu could save her in time. On the stage, the masters of the Dragon League were all moved. Luo Xingtian even pouted and said, Leader, you care so much about Miss Qin Yin, it's really enviable. If only there was a man who treated me so well. Niu Gung said quickly, I can do it too. First, you are not as strong as Leader. Second, you are not as handsome as Leader. Humph, I don't need you to protect me. Luo Xingtian didn't appreciate it. Big Cow touched the back of his head, silently protesting against this world that only cared about appearances. Can we start? Dongfang Yan's smile was full of killing intent, and it was extremely hideous and ugly. Chapter 1039. Qin Yin's eyes were filled with caution. With a single pluck of the zither, countless whirlwinds were created. She had to set up layers of protection around herself in order to defend against Dongfang Yan's attack. Dongfang Yan's power had already reached the 90th Great Perfection Divine Emperor realm. Now that he had sacrificed his body to cultivate the death-forbidden technique, his power must have increased by a lot. She had to be on guard. Brother Yu, watch carefully. Qin Yin's voice passed into Lin Muyu's ears like a thin thread. He couldn't help but be stunned. Was Qin Yin using herself as bait to draw out Dongfang Yan's unique skill? Lin Muyu had mixed feelings. Qin Yin must have also felt the threat from Dongfang Yan. The irresistible power of death had surpassed Qin Yin's divine power of light. It seems that she is ready. Dongfang Yan smiled ferociously and did not move at all. He put his hands together in front of his chest and mumbled. Suddenly, blood-red air waves rose from his body and countless black fogs spread rapidly around him. 3 flying swords were unsheathed with a dang-dang-dang sound and attacked Qin Yin with the roar of ghosts and devils. Bang bang bang, light splashed. Qin Yin confronted the flying swords with the zither of Nuwa. Waves of sound collided with the flying swords shrouded in the power of death, bringing out layers of shock waves. For a moment, the sky changed color, ghosts cried and gods howled. No one could see clearly what kind of battle was happening in the core. They only knew that the momentum in the space was cold and fluctuating. Lin Muyu held the Xianyuan sword and looked up at the battle on the high platform. Beads of sweat oozed from his forehead. Dongfang Yan's power of death almost completely crushed Qin Yin's divine power of light. Swoosh! A golden light penetrated the dark air mass of Dongfang Yan, but disappeared in the blink of an eye. That was Qin Yin's attempt to penetrate Dongfang Yan's realm of death with divine power of light, but it was in vain. As time passed, Lin Muyu's hand, which was holding the sword, began to tremble. Qin Yin's power of the Lord of Light was decreasing, while Dongfang Yan's power seemed to be getting stronger as the battle went on. The dark air mass in the air turned into many demonic shadows and kept attacking the core. Lin Muyu tried her best to sense with the spiritual pulse spell, but she could only see Qin Yin struggling with the Nuwa zither in the core. Xiao Yin. He suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest. Clang. With the sound of the zither strings, it was the sound of the flying sword hitting the Nuwa zither. The next moment, the golden light surged and completely broke through the death chi that Dongfang Yan had condensed. Qin Yin was kneeling there quietly, with the Nuwa zither beside her legs, while Dongfang Yan was standing a few meters away with a flying sword in his hand. Black blood flowed from the corners of his mouth, and he was breathing heavily. Miss Qin Yin won? Shunjun asked in astonishment. I think so. Feng Zhanlin was also pleasantly surprised. We won? Miss Qin Yin won? But on the stage, Qin Yin did not move at all. Suddenly she spat out a mouthful of blood on the zither strings, while Dongfang Yen threw a flying sword straight at Qin Yin's chest with all his strength and roared, "Go to hell, little girl!" Bus. With falling star steps, Lin Muyu anxiously rushed to the stage and stood in front of Qin Yin. He waved the Xin Yuan sword and knocked away Dongfang Yan's flying sword with a heavy blow. His face was full of anger. "Do you want to kill me? Come on, I'll fight with you." However, at this moment, Zheng Xian, who was below the stage, said, "Chief Lin, this is against the rules. Miss Qin Yin has to admit defeat first before you can challenge the winner. Otherwise, won't you be bullying her with numbers?" Lin Muyu gritted his teeth. At this moment, Qin Yin fell down. He hurriedly picked her up and looked at Dongfang Yen coldly. "I'll settle the score with you later." At this time, Tang Xiaoxi, Shi Yen, Luo Xingtian and the others also rushed over. Lin Muyu put Qin Yin on the ground and held her hand tightly. He used his own healing ability to dispel the power of death that invaded Qin Yin's heart meridian. "Let me try." Shi Yen closed her eyes and swept her palm over Qin Yin's body with the light. The light became colder and colder and she frowned more and more. Obviously, Qin Yin's injury was far more serious than she had imagined. "Sister Shi Yen, how is it?" Lin Muyu was anxious. How could she wait? Shi Yen was silent. After a while she said, "Use your healing power to protect her heart meridian. I'll try to use the light power of the blazing angel to dispel the power of darkness. You don't be anxious. If you lose your composure, Xin will really be in danger." "And I'll calm down." Lin Muyu's heart was in a mess. At this time, Dongfang Yan's arrogant laughter came from behind. "The winner of the winning streak has been defeated. Who else wants to challenge this old man's power?" The power that Qin Yin had displayed before was so strong that even Xinjun, Jianghu, and other domain lords were easily defeated. But in less than the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, she was defeated by Dongfang Yen. This could only mean that Dongfang Yen was much stronger. Who else would dare to challenge Dongfang Yen? Among the crowd, only Murong Tianqing stood up. The sword in his hand glowed with a bright light. With a low voice he said, "Since ancient times evil has never won. We cultivators should follow the will of the heavens and subdue demons. Now that Domain Lord Dongfang is willing to enter the corpse-nurturing planes to cultivate, you have already fallen into the demonic path. You are no longer a member of the righteous path. Good and evil cannot coexist. Murong Tianqing is willing to learn from you." Dongfang Yen couldn't help but laugh. "So it's Domain Lord Murong? Good. In the entire southern region of the 64 domains, only you, Murong Tianqing, can be considered a character. Please enlighten me." Without any etiquette, Murong Tianqing pulled out his sword and stabbed towards Dongfang Yen. The sword looked simple but the wind was piercingly cold. There was a squeaking sound in the air which made Dongfang Yan's body feel sluggish. It was almost impossible for him to dodge this sword. Murong Tianqing cultivated in the laws of wind and space. The law of space was a manifestation of a domain. Murong Tianqing's ability to control his strength and the pressure of his domain could be counted on one's fingers even in the 64 domains. Moreover, Murong Tianqing's natural disposition was magnanimous and uninhibited. This was also the reason why he was able to become the youngest domain lord in the 64 domains. "Ah, good." Dongfang Yan's roar was like that of a wild beast. Suddenly he opened his arms, and the nails on his fingers grew a few centimeters long. He got down on all fours and charged towards Murong Tianqing ferociously. He didn't look like a godly state cultivator at all, he looked like a wild beast. However, the power he displayed was above the 90th heavenly layer. Ping ping ping, streams of death chi collided with the spatial walls that Murong Tianqing had set up. White energy grids appeared in the air, and Murong Tianqing pierced through them with his sword, looking like a celestial being. However, the difference in power caused his face to turn ashen. Dongfang Yen continued to smash the energy grids, and the three flying swords in the air were constantly chasing after Murong Tianqing's position. Clang! The flying sword Qin Lu heavily collided with Murong Tianqing's sword. Immediately, Murong Tianqing's arm became numb and his breathing became chaotic. At this moment, he realized how powerful Qin Yin was to be able to withstand Dongfang Yan's crazy attacks for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Immediately, he clenched his teeth and released his strongest power. He continued to fight with Dongfang Yen looking for his flaws. Below the stage, Lin Muyu hugged Qin Yin tightly. Rays of Fushi's divine power appeared on the surface of her body. She was transferring her divine power to Qin Yin to stop the death energy from devouring her heart meridians. However, it didn't seem to be of any use. On the contrary, Qin Yin's Lord Godhead was protecting her. If not for the Lord Godhead, Qin Yin might have already died. The death forbidden technique was extremely vicious. You can't do this. Shi Yin said softly, even if you give Xin all your power, you still won't be able to save her. She can only rely on herself to protect herself. Quickly stop, you will damage your own power. Lin Muyu hugged Qin Yin while trembling. It's all my fault, it's all my fault. If only I didn't let Xiao Yin accept the challenge. It's all my fault, it's all my fault. How can you be blamed for this? This is just a trap set by the Luoxing domain. They have Dongfang Yan as their trump card to destroy the elites of the 7 domains and then dominate the 8 southern domains. Dongfang Yan, Lin Muyu gently handed Qin Yin to Shi Yan. She grabbed the Shen Yuan sword with one hand and said, we can't let Dongfang Yan live. I'm going to get rid of him. Sister Shi Yan and Xiao Shi take care of Xiao Yin. You have to be careful, okay. Just as Lin Muyu was about to leave, his hand was suddenly grabbed. He turned around and found Qin Yin looking at him weakly. Her beautiful eyes were full of reluctance. Xiao Yin. He hurriedly knelt beside Qin Yin. Qin Yin whispered weakly, Brother Yu, be careful of the death forbidden technique. Dongfang Yan can devour our power and make it his own. Devour power? Lin Muyu was stunned. Okay. Qin Yin's breath was very weak. She said, the law of power is about life and death, and our power is born from the Qi Sea. It disappears between heaven and earth. In the Qi Sea, it is life, in the heaven and earth, it is death. Our power dissipating means death to Dongfang Yan. He can turn our dissipating power into his own, so we have to use continuous attacks to quickly get rid of him. We can't let Dongfang Yan keep absorbing power, or else you will definitely lose. As she spoke, Qin Yin violently coughed a few times. Her face became even paler. Xiao Yin. Lin Muyu held her hand tightly. Be careful. After Qin Yin said these 2 words, she fainted again. On the stage there were many lights and shadows. Murong Qianxing's power had already been exhausted to a very weak point, while Dongfang Yan was getting stronger and stronger. Domain Lord Murong, just admit defeat. Lin Muyu loudly said from outside the battlefield. Okay. Murong Qianxing, who was in the middle of a fierce battle, could only say this one word. His whole body was surrounded by the power of death. It was already very fortunate that he was not injured. But Dongfang Yan continued to chase after him. Buzz. The space suddenly trembled. Lin Muyu had arrived. The Shenyuan sword was filled with the power of the 10,000 elephants of heaven and earth. With a hong sound, it pierced through the black mass of qi and rescued Murong Qianxing from the battle. Then her left fist suddenly landed heavily on Dongfang Yan's armpit. Bang! This demonic sound fist was very powerful. It even caused black blood to flow from the corner of Dongfang Yan's mouth. At this moment, Lin Muyu and Murong Qianxing joined hands. Although it was very short, it was the truth. According to the rules, this was not allowed. However, Lin Muyu was not a person who followed the rules. If she could trick a strong opponent, she would naturally do it. Otherwise, she would be a fool. Chapter 1040. Murong Qianxing coughed violently and stumbled down from the stage. 2 celestial emperors from the Qianxing region immediately came to protect him. Region Lord, are you all right? I'm fine. Murong Qianxing wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth as he turned to look at Dongfang Yan and Lin Muyu. Alliance Chief Lin, be careful. Dongfang Yan's forbidden death technique is extremely evil, it can absorb the energy of others. Thank you, I will be careful. Lin Muyu nodded. Not far away, Zheng Xian's body rose up and he said, Alliance Lord Lin, are you going to challenge the current arena Lord, Dongfang Yan? Yes. Lin Muyu looked indifferent. Do I need to use anything as a bargaining chip? There's no need. Alliance leader Lin has already given our falling star field a lot of face by participating in the treasure-seizing assembly. If Alliance leader Lin wants to challenge Lord Dongfang Yan, please come on stage. It's going to be dark soon. Thank you for reminding me. Lin Muyu looked at Zheng Xian coldly. Zheng Xian was not that kind. He didn't want to use the bargaining chip because if he lost, the Tianxing region would be the real winner. The reputation of the Dragon League would suffer a great loss. Experts from different regions would always follow whoever had a higher reputation. This was a competition. If Lin Muyu lost to Dongfang Yan, at least 30 to 40% of the 1300 God Realm experts in the Dragon City would leave. Dongfang Yen was surrounded by a dense black aura. His face, which was neither human nor ghost, was filled with hostility and killing intent. His pale green eyes shot out a frightening cold light. He grinned and said, "Lin Muyu, you don't want to save your woman. Do you want to come here to die?" Once the corpse aura of the corpse nurturing plane enters the body, it is not easy to get rid of it. Do you want her to die? Lin Muyu was secretly disappointed. Dongfang Yen had started to attack her mind before he started to fight. He used Qinyin to confuse her mind. Such a person was really terrible. Slowly unsheathing the Xinyuan sword, Lin Muyu pointed the sword at Dongfang Yen and said softly, "In this battle, let's decide the winner and the loser and also decide life and death. What do you think?" Ha ha ha. Dongfang Yen laughed wildly. "You want to kill me so badly? Do you, Lin Muyu, still think that I, Dongfang Yen, am still the same Dongfang Yen that you can kill whenever you want?" Lin Muyu's expression was calm. "I'm only asking you, what do you think of my suggestion?" "Okay, I agree." Dongfang Yan's eyes were full of pride. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. She raised her voice and said in a loud voice that shocked everyone present, "Did you all hear that? The battle between Dongfang Yen and I will decide life and death. Before either of us dies, no one is allowed to interfere." Zheng Xian frowned but didn't say anything. Murong Qianxing, Feng Zhanlin, Tang Xiaoxi and the others looked at the stage nervously. Shi Yan was guarding Qinyin, while Fuzhu stood aside anxiously and couldn't do anything to help. The flying sword Morning Dew was surrounded by a blood-red light. Dongfang Yen stared at Lin Muyu with one eye, as if he was staring at his prey. The other two flying swords, Rainbow Light and Flame Blade, were flying up and down, looking for an opportunity at any time. Lin Muyu held the Xinyuan sword very cautiously, and walked towards Dongfang Yen step by step. Just like a duel between warriors in the mortal world, she walked towards him step by step, and the light of the invisible elephant spell surged around her, constantly colliding with the bone-chilling death airflow. Just like this, when Lin Muyu stepped into the death airflow, she gave a low shout and slashed out with her sword. The ground was full of chaotic figures and living celestial bodies. It was the first strike of the 7 luminaries, chaos of the common people. Dongfang Yen didn't say anything. He swept towards Morning Dew with a miserable sound like ghosts crying and gods howling. The thick death airflow quickly swallowed the Xian energy of the chaos of the common people, and went straight to Lin Muyu's chest. "Bastard!" Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and shouted. Suddenly, the starlight on her body surged. The first move of the star arts, initial starlight. When the starlight dispelled the death airflow, Dongfang Yen roared and rushed towards Morning Dew. The other two flying swords also attacked from the left and right sides with amazing power. Lin Muyu was surprisingly calm. The Xianyuan sword fiercely slashed out with the Xian energy of the two luminaries' demonic dance, and at the same time she kicked with her left fist and right foot. Dongfang Yan's flying swords were pushed back, and the Xianyuan sword hit Morning Dew with a bang. Obviously, Lin Muyu, who used all her power, had the advantage in strength and pushed Dongfang Yen back with one strike. However, he didn't feel happy at all. When the swords collided, Lin Muyu felt that a part of his two luminaries' demonic dance's Xian energy was sucked away. Just as Qin Yin reminded, the reduction of the 7 luminaries' power was equivalent to providing Dongfang Yen with endless death energy. At this moment, Dongfang Yen was like a ball of rotten cotton. No matter how you attacked, he was still the same. Instead, he was constantly absorbing the opponent's energy, and when the time was right, he would launch a counterattack. But Lin Muyu knew that any absorbing technique had a limit. Her only chance of winning was to break through Dongfang Yan's limit and catch him off guard. The Xianyuan sword's light surged, 3 luminaries calamity. Dongfang Yen laughed wildly and waved the Morning Dew sword like a madman to block. With a peng sound, his body suddenly sank, but he managed to withstand it. He didn't lose his defense under Lin Muyu's fierce attack. Lin Muyu's body was in the air. With a light flip of his wrist, the second power contained in the Xianyuan sword burst forth. It was the profound energy of the 4 luminaries' demon and god's cry. The current hymn had already cultivated the 7 luminaries' profound energy to the point of perfection. Ha! Dongfang Yen was also shocked, but he still waved his long sleeves. A thick death aura continuously attacked and resisted the 4 luminaries' demon and god's cry's blood-red profound energy. For a moment, the sky kept bursting with flames. It was extremely shocking. "You want to eat my power? Can you?" Lin Muyu's handsome face looked extremely angry under the illumination of the flames. Death can devour heaven and earth, so what does your power count for? Dongfang Yen laughed loudly, his expression was abnormally ferocious. The death aura around his body revolved rapidly, constantly devouring Lin Muyu's profound energy. Was it really as he said, the forbidden death technique could devour the power of everything in the world? Buzz buzz buzz, the flame rose up again. Lin Muyu's left hand was raised high, as if she was holding a purple sun in her hand. It was so majestic and unparalleled. The spectators on the longevity altar were all moved. No one had seen such a powerful martial art before. The sixth style of the star arts, purple sun shakes the earth. Lin Muyu used almost all of his divine power to blast out the purple sun. The blazing energy instantly poured onto Dongfang Yan's morning dew sword, burning the flying sword red. Dongfang Yan's expression became even more ferocious, and he let out a miserable howl. The clothes on his upper body instantly disappeared under the power of the purple sun, revealing his rotten muscles and bones. It was very frightening. The power of the purple sun was not so easy to swallow. Even the rotten sores on Dongfang Yan's chest and shoulders had already evaporated into steam. He roared loudly, opened his mouth and tried to swallow more supreme divine power. Snot and blood flowed down from his nose, making him look miserable and ferocious. Will it work or not? Feng Zhanlin clenched his fist, his face ashen. Tang Xiaoxi and Shi Yan's pretty faces were also full of nervousness. Fu Zhu murmured, Master will definitely win, he will definitely win against that thing that is neither human nor ghost, he will definitely. Murong Tianxing, Shinjun, Jianghu Yang, and other area lords were also dumbfounded. I didn't expect this leader of the Dragon League to be so powerful. Jianghu Yang said in a low voice. You have to win, Alliance Leader Lin. Murong Tianxing's blessing came from the bottom of his heart. On the other side, Zheng Xian, Dongfang Jin, and the others' faces were ashen. They didn't expect Lin Muyu to be so powerful that even Dongfang Yen, who was neither human nor ghost, was having such a hard time dealing with her, and even seemed to be in imminent danger. Once Dongfang Yen was defeated, the meticulous planning of the entire Starfall domain would go down the drain. The entire treasure-seizing conference would instead be like a wedding dress for the Dragon League. Ah! Ah! Dongfang Yen roared continuously. Suddenly, the purple sun in the sky disappeared. He had completely eaten it. The purplish-red energy even came out of Dongfang Yan's throat and abdomen, and was forcibly swallowed by him in the blink of an eye. It tastes really good, ha! Dongfang Yen laughed provocatively at Lin Muyu, who was in the sky. Lin Muyu smiled as well. Is that so? Then eat one more. She held the Xinyuan sword tightly with both hands and light shot up into the sky. For a moment, the surrounding space twisted and the world turned upside down. The fiery red seven planets' profound energy crazily surged out of Lin Muyu's body, and Lin Muyu roared, All things in the world, listen to my command. Borrow power, borrow the power of all the mountains in the entire Starfall domain. The long sword struck, 6 planets tribulation. This sword was not as simple as the 6 planets tribulation, it also contained the power of the mountains and rivers. Bang! As the sword fell, it directly shattered the morning dew flying sword. For a moment, the power of the heavens and the earth fell down, forming a domain cyclone that instantly crushed Dongfang Yan's death aura. Facing the Xinyuan sword, Dongfang Yan actually stretched out a pair of hands that were almost left with bones to receive the attack. His hands were like iron hooks that clasped the blade of the sword, preventing the Xinyuan sword from cutting down. But the profound energy on the blade also flew down and penetrated into Dongfang Yan's body. Ah! This great perfection divine emperor expert let out a heart-wrenching scream. Under the impact of the 6 planets tribulation, blood flew out of his nose, and even his poor eyeballs were almost squeezed out of shape. He was indescribably ferocious and scary. Indeed, Dongfang Yan could not be considered as a god or a human at this moment, he was just a thing that was neither human nor ghost. In the sound of bones breaking, Dongfang Yan's ribs were all broken, and his body seemed like it would completely collapse at any time. Boom. A few seconds later, his body suddenly exploded and turned into a pile of rotten flesh, but his arms, shoulders, and head were still intact, and he was still fighting against the Xinyuan sword. He looked at Lin Muyu with one eye and said ferociously, Death is rebirth, I have already understood the way of life and death, do you think you can kill me like this? Visible to the naked eye, the rotten flesh on the ground began to move slowly, and in the blink of an eye, it began to gather. He was being reborn. Chapter 1041. Oh my God, what is that? On the longevity altar, the masters of the 8 regions all stood up in astonishment. At this moment, no one could sit still. This was the first time they saw someone like Dongfang Yen, who cultivated the forbidden death technique, being able to be reborn like this after his body was shattered. How could they not be astonished? The cultivation laws of the entire 64 regions were almost overturned by this scene in front of them. It really is an evil technique. Murong Qianxing clenched his fists and said, Alliance Master Lin is in danger. This kind of evil technique. I'm afraid only a perfected God Emperor expert can deal with it. Xinjun squinted his eyes. Dongfang Yen is really crazy. In order to pursue power, he actually gave up being a god and would rather be a ghost, a monster like this. Wang Xiang's face turned pale. Alliance Master Lin, will he be alright? On the seats of the Dragon League, Luo Xingtian, Niu Geng, Fengzhan Lin, Mochi Lin and the others were extremely nervous. They all gritted their teeth and wished they could immediately go and help Lin Muyu. Unfortunately, the battle aura formed by Lin Muyu and Dongfang Yen was not something ordinary people could enter. Even Luo Xingtian, Niu Geng and the others who had just entered the God Emperor realm, might not even be able to enter the battle. In less than 10 seconds, Dongfang Yan's body condensed again. He did not seem to be in as much pain as before. He licked his lips and smiled. As expected of the sovereign lattice, the divine power derived from it tastes so delicious. Come on Lin Muyu, let me Dongfang Yen see how powerful you are. Come on, kill me. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. Suddenly a cold light flashed past her side. It was the flying sword Flame Blade. Kacha, a hole was pierced through the divine wall and blood could be seen on her arm. Dongfang Yen was an immortal, bloodthirsty person. He licked his lips and tasted the evaporated smell of Lin Muyu's blood. He could not help but look even more ferocious. Good. Good taste, your blood is so delicious. Aha, I'm going to eat you, Dongfang Yen will eat you. In the distance, Zheng Xian couldn't help frowning. He didn't expect Dongfang Yen to be so arrogant. If this was the case, so what if Dongfang Yen defeated Lin Muyu? The Falling Star Domain would be labeled as an evil sect. At that time, the Heaven-Devouring Domain and the Mysterious Heaven Domain would definitely not let the Falling Star Domain off. Dongfang Yen was completely immersed in his world of death, and the surrounding death power became more and more intense. In the air, Lin Muyu kept activating his strength of grains. The blood mist on his arms slowly condensed into blood refinement. In a blink of an eye, it transformed into a huge blood-colored ball, trapping him and Dongfang Yen in it. It was the 8th skill of the star scripture, blood refinement of the firmament. The Yang and Yin Yang. With Yen, flame heaven, blood Lin heaven of heaven and heaven Yang Yen was an earth. Yen and the heaven the earth. Heaven and the God and the heaven. And Dongfang Yen. And Yang. The God and Lin and in one. Can't you be reborn? Lin Muyu sneered, I want to see how many times you can be reborn. Take this. Boom. With an energy wave similar to infrasound, the huge blood ball suddenly shook, and Dongfang Yan's body also quickly began to separate. His body was already full of holes by the blood refining the heavens, so how could he have any power to resist? In the blink of an eye, Dongfang Yan's body disappeared, turning into pieces of meat in the air. She won. Tang Xiaoxi opened her eyes wide. Mu won. Shi Yen frowned, not necessarily, let's wait and see. You did not completely relax and Dongfang Yan's aura is still everywhere in the sky. Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. In the distance, Murong Qianxing, Xinjun, Jianghu, and the others all opened their eyes wide. This was a rare battle, a battle between a god and a demon. Even though Dongfang Yen had been smashed into pieces, the result was still unknown. As if to confirm everyone's thoughts, the pieces of meat in the air slowly gathered like dust, and Dongfang Yan's arrogant laughter could be heard. He had become stronger. Can't he be killed? Lin Muyu frowned. Can't he be killed? Perhaps only by completely destroying Dongfang Yan's body could he be killed? At this time, Dongfang Yan's upper body had been reunited. He looked at Lin Muyu with a playful face and laughed. I said death is rebirth. Poor Lin Muyu, in my eyes you are just like an ignorant and weak mortal, ha ha ha. The future of the 64 domains will be changed by me, Dongfang Yen, and you are just a small stumbling block. Lin Muyu did not say anything. His body rose into the air, and he sheathed his long sword. He raised both his palms in the air and with a buzz, a golden light burst out, and a huge wheel began to spin rapidly under his body. Divine wheel. Lin Muyu used all of her power to operate the divine wheel, and she did not give Dongfang Yan any time to buy time. Lin Muyu would not be so stupid to wait for Dongfang Yan to reunite his body before attacking. The divine wheel was not too big, only as big as a high platform, but all its power was concentrated and compressed by Lin Muyu into this small wheel. This attack must kill Dongfang Yan. You want to use the divine wheel? A trace of surprise flashed in Dongfang Yan's eyes. He hurriedly tried to fly away, but the cage of the blood-refining firmament was still around him. Dongfang Yan hit the blood wall with a ping-ping sound, but he was unable to break through. You don't even think about it. This time Dongfang Yan was really nervous. The power of the divine will came from the purest divine power. After being killed by the divine wheel, nothing would be left, and it was impossible to be reborn in that state of nothingness. According to the divine realm, this kind of death was called annihilation, and it had nothing to do with rebirth. Don't even think about it. Dongfang Yan was anxious and his ferocious body suddenly trembled. A space crack was opening behind him, and he wanted to break the void and escape. In your dreams. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth, and with a thought, the invisible elephant formula quickly controlled the surrounding space, and extinguished Dongfang Yan's escape route like extinguishing a cigarette butt. Don't even think about killing me. Don't even think about it. Dongfang Yan roared and his arms suddenly shook. Golden quicksand flowed between his fingers. That was the power of the samsara wheel. He wanted to go back in time and escape before Lin Muyu used the blood-refining sky. Lin Muyu could not help but smile slightly. Suddenly, golden quicksand also flew around her arms, and the samsara wheel in a small area was sped up. In the blink of an eye, the power of the divine wheel had been accumulated to the fullest, and the advantage of the Supreme Personality was instantly demonstrated. After Lin Muyu used the samsara wheel, Dongfang Yan did not have time to use the samsara wheel. With a shout from Lin Muyu, the divine wheel smashed down with an overwhelming force. Dongfang Yan raised his head, and saw Lin Muyu's angry eyes. Boom! The whole mountain range of the meteorite domain was shaking, and the foundation of the longevity altar was constantly collapsing, and there were signs of collapse at the edge. In the dazzling golden light, Dongfang Yan's body began to disappear, and was completely disintegrated by the divine wheel. In the blink of an eye, the divine wheel smashed into the ground, and the hard divine spar was smashed into pieces. Back then the ancestors of the meteorite domain chose the hard divine spar as the arena, but they did not expect that these divine spar would eventually be destroyed by an emperor god with the divine wheel. They never thought that this would happen. Dongfang Yan died, and the 3 flying swords were also evaporated by the divine wheel. This time Dongfang Yan's aura completely disappeared. The moment the smoke and clouds dissipated, the afterglow of the setting sun fell on Lin Muyu. The Chiyu armor under his battle robe reflected a majestic luster, making him look like a god of war. She won Mu won. Tang Xiaoxi almost cried tears of joy. It was not easy to win this battle, and Lin Muyu almost used all his skills and cultivation. Shi Yan nodded slightly. Yes, you won, he won. The people of the Dragon League all cheered. Not long after, the people of the Tianxing domain, the Earth Carrier domain, and the other domains all stood up and cheered for Lin Muyu. At this moment, almost everyone regarded Lin Muyu as the hero who saved the 8 southern regions. If it were not for Lin Muyu, no one would have the ability to defeat Dongfang Yan, who was neither human nor ghost. Under the cheers and shouts of the crowd, Lin Muyu sat in the mess for a full 3 minutes before she stood up again. She floated towards the Dragon League, knelt down on one knee next to Qin Yin and asked, "Is Xiao Yin awake?" Tang Xiaoxi shook her head. Shi Yan said, "Xiao Yin's body was invaded by the death qi, and her senses and heart are temporarily sealed. Let's take her back to the Dragon League to recuperate first. You don't worry, there will be a way to cure her." Tang Xiaoxi frowned. Mu is also injured. Why did Mu's body be invaded by the death qi? Lin Muyu said, "I also think it's strange. Murong Tianxing is not injured, so it's understandable that the death qi did not invade his body. But I am injured, but I feel a force protecting me. I don't have Dongfang Yan's death qi. Why is that?" Shi Yan sighed. "Because the Xinyuan sword on your back is a saint's sword, it's filled with righteousness, it's the sword that protected you. And Xiao Yin's weapon is the Nuwa Zither. Although the Nuwa Zither also has righteousness, it can't compare to the Xinyuan sword. This is probably the reason. It's all my fault." Lin Muyu carried Qin Yin, looked at her unconscious appearance and blamed herself. "I should have given the Xinyuan sword to Xiao Yin. What's the use of blaming yourself? Let's return to Dragon City. And when Lin Muyu flew up, Murong Tianxing suddenly said, Alliance leader Lin, please wait a moment. Since you are the champion of this treasure-seizing assembly, you can take away all the treasures. Lin Muyu looked at the people on the ground and said, the star cluster chess originally belonged to our Dragon League. Fengzhan Lin, go and take it. As for the rest of the treasures, return them to their owners. Everyone was shocked. No one thought that Lin Muyu would deal with the spoils of war like this. At this time Lin Muyu looked at Zheng Xian deeply and said, Domain Lord Zheng, you are the ruler of Fallen Star Domain. You should know that you should draw a clear line between yourself and people like Dongfang Yan who walk the path of evil. If you do it again, our Dragon League will flatten Fallen Star Domain. Don't blame me for not warning you. Zheng Xian disappointedly nodded. He didn't say anything, his heart was dead. Dongfang Yan was dead, and Fallen Star Domain's chance to rise seemed to have disappeared. Chapter 1042. At night, as the people of the 7 regions left one by one, the originally prosperous meteorite territory became barren. The longevity altar, which had been mostly destroyed, was in a mess. Many people of the meteorite territory were cleaning up the wreckage left behind by the battle. The moonlight slowly rose and fell on the mountain range, shining into the distance like a silver dragon winding above the earth. Several people stood on the balcony, overlooking the scene of the longevity altar being repaired. The light of the torches reflected something in their eyes that no one could understand. Territory Master, Uncle has died in battle. He died for the meteorite territory. There must be an explanation, right? Dongfang Jin frowned and said calmly. Zheng Xian had 2 sabers hanging from his waist. His expression was also not very good. He said calmly, Nephew, don't be anxious. Dongfang Territory Master and I have been through life and death together. His death pains me more than anyone else. Nephew, please rest assured that the meteorite territory will definitely take revenge. Lin Muyu will die under my 2 sabers sooner or later. That would be for the best. Dongfang Jin raised his eyebrows and said, Then? What does the Territory Master plan to do now? Although we have lost Uncle, the Dragon League has also lost Qinin. Qinin is Lin Muyu's woman. With Lin Muyu's personality, she will definitely not let this go. Zheng Xian pondered for a moment and a strange smile appeared on his face. He said, Nephew, as the saying goes, whoever started the trouble must end it. The method to detoxify the corpse poison can only be found in the corpse cultivation plane. If there is no accident, within 3 days Lin Muyu will come to the corpse cultivation plane. If that is the case, we can use your master to get rid of Lin Muyu and let the masters of the corpse cultivation plane come out and destroy the Dragon League. Wouldn't this be killing 2 birds with 1 stone? We can avenge Dongfang Yan and also get rid of Lin Muyu. If Lin Muyu dies and the Dragon League is destroyed, then Dragon City will naturally belong to Nephew. Dongfang Jin narrowed his eyes. Territory Master is willing to support me to return to the Raging Fire territory and take charge of the entire territory? Who else is more suitable than you? Zheng Xian held onto the railing of the pavilion and gazed into the distance. He said, But there is one more thing that no one is more suitable than you, and that is to go to the land of corpses to report to your teacher. Tell him the news of Dongfang Yan's brother's death and let him prepare early. Once Lin Muyu goes to the land of corpses, leave him there forever. Aha, so that's how it is. Dongfang Jin laughed dryly. What kind of place was the corpse nurturing plane? It was a forbidden area that all the major regions were forbidden to enter, and even the Divine Lord was not willing to step into it. The master of the corpse nurturing plane had only accepted 1 disciple from the outer realm, and that was Dongfang Yan. Dongfang Jin had followed Dongfang Yan to meet his master once, and he was indeed the most suitable. If it was Zheng Xian, he might not be able to return alive. However, Dongfang Jin couldn't help but shudder at the thought of the eerie and terrifying corpse nurturing planes, and he was struck by a sense of horror. Nephew, are you willing to go? Zheng Xian asked. Dongfang Jin lowered his head and pondered for a long time. He then raised his head and said, In order to avenge my uncle, I should go to the corpse nurturing plane. However, I also hope that you will fulfill your promise. Once Lin Muyu dies in the corpse nurturing plane, you will immediately send troops to suppress the Dragon League and take back the Raging Fire region for me? Of course. All right, then I will go to the corpse nurturing plane immediately. Half a day later. The southernmost border, the most difficult region of the entire 64 regions, was a desolate and uninhabited wilderness. The wilderness was getting more and more desolate, and there were dead branches and leaves everywhere. A strong rotten smell lingered in the air. The corpse-nurturing plain was a miserable gray mountain area. Rotten bones could be seen almost everywhere, and there were even some rotting corpses. Flies were flying around, and it was difficult to look at them directly. In the wilderness, a man in a black robe was walking slowly. It was Dongfang Jin. Jia. The soil on both sides moved, and there was a chilling sound. As Dongfang Jin walked, he said respectfully, "I am Dongfang Jin, the nephew of your teacher's disciple, Dongfang Yan. I have come here to tell your teacher a very important message." The violent soil on both sides immediately calmed down, as if nothing had happened. Dongfang Jin broke out in a cold sweat and continued to walk forward until he reached the end of the death chi. Suddenly, the death chi in front of him became extremely thick, and the rotten bones of at least 1,000 corpses flew up into the air. It was a terrifying scene. In the blink of an eye, these bones quickly gathered and formed the shape of a giant head. This head actually spoke, and it sounded like it came from the depths of hell. "I know you. You are Dongfang Yan's nephew." "Yes." Dongfang Jin hurriedly knelt on both knees and cried, "Teacher, please take revenge for uncle. He died so miserably, his body and soul were destroyed." "Dongfang Yan is dead?" The head seemed very surprised. "He is someone who has learned my immortal deity technique. Is there anyone in the 64 regions who can kill Dongfang Yan?" "Yes." Dongfang Jin nodded heavily and said, "Teacher, the person who killed uncle is called Lin Muyu. She is the leader of the Southern Dragon League." "Uncle died under Lin Muyu's spirit wheel." "Spirit wheel? I have never heard of this Lin Muyu before. Is he a perfected God Emperor?" "No, he is just a God Emperor who has yet to step into the 80th Grotto Heaven realm, but this person has the paragon physique and can use the power of heaven and earth. It was his spirit wheel that destroyed uncle's body and soul. Also, this person's weapon is the legendary Xinyuan sword, the most powerful divine weapon in the 3 realms. Uncle's death energy was restrained by the Xinyuan sword, which is why he was defeated." As he spoke, Dongfang Jin kowtowed and cried, "Teacher, please take revenge for uncle." The skeleton in the air spun rapidly, and there was a cold glint in its eye sockets. "This Lin Muyu is not simple. Dongfang Jin, you asked me to take revenge for your uncle. Why don't you take revenge for yourself?" Dongfang Jin's forehead was instantly covered in sweat. "I know that I am not a match for Lin Muyu at all. That is why I asked you, teacher." "Ha!" The skull laughed wildly and said, "What if I give you a chance now? I will let you become an immortal, and you can personally take revenge for your uncle. How about that?" "Teacher, you mean?" Dongfang Jin's face was pale. "Why, are you not willing to become my disciple and inherit your uncle Dongfang Yan's legacy?" "I am willing, but time is short. That Lin Muyu's woman, Qin Yin, has been poisoned, and Lin Muyu will definitely find the corpse-nurturing plains in 3 to 5 days. I am worried that such a short period of time is not enough for me to cultivate the immortal deity technique." "Ha!" The skull laughed wildly again. "Don't worry, you have the body of a god emperor, and the billions of rotten bones in the corpse-nurturing plains can all be absorbed by you. As long as you are determined to take revenge, the corpse-nurturing plains can turn you into an immortal in 3 days. When Lin Muyu finds you, you can take revenge yourself. If you still can't do it, this senior will help you. How about that?" Dongfang Jin muttered to himself. "Humph." The skull showed a trace of displeasure. "Are you still greedy for the various things in the mortal world? Power and money or women? To cultivate the immortal deity technique, you are destined to give up all of that. Do you want to live a lowly life, or do you want to obtain supreme power, to make your enemies bow at your feet?" "Supreme power." Dongfang Jin's body trembled and he looked up, his eyes filled with passion. "Teacher, Dongfang Jin is willing to follow teacher in cultivating the immortal deity technique." "Good, come here." "Yes." Dongfang Jin walked over slowly, and suddenly the surroundings were filled with black clouds, filled with the wailing of ghosts and wailing of gods. The skull suddenly dispersed, turning into countless rotten bones that surrounded Dongfang Jin. Instantly the rotten bones danced in the air, shattering Dongfang Jin's godly walls. Inch by inch, his skin was torn open and blood splattered everywhere. In the blink of an eye, he was neither human nor ghost, and the black death energy quickly seeped into his body. In the darkness, a powerful death energy sighed, and it quickly absorbed Dongfang Jin's fresh flesh and blood, as if it was extremely satisfied. The taste of a living person was always more enjoyable than the taste of a dead person. Dragon City. In an exquisite room in the side palace, Qinyin lay on the bed in a daze, her face pale. It was already the second day and Qinyin still had not woken up. If not for Shi Yan using the power of the blazing angel to protect her heart, perhaps Qinyin's body would have been completely corroded. Holding her cold hand, Lin Muyu's heart was filled with self-blame and heartache. If he had fought Dongfang Yan at the first moment, perhaps Qinyin would not have ended up like this. Don't worry, Xiaoyin will get better. Tang Xiaoxi put her hand on his shoulder and comforted him, but she did not have much confidence. At this rate, Qinyin might not wake up. What is going on with this death evil art? Lin Muyu sat down on the bed dejectedly. Why is it that our god powers are unable to cure the poison, and even the godly medicine that I have refined is unable to dispel the death energy in Xiaoyin's body? Why? Feng Zhanlin, Ma Qilin, and the others were silent. Domain Lord level experts like them were helpless against this kind of evil art. Shi Yan furrowed her brows and said, in the Western divine realm, death and rebirth are only a kind of transformation that exists. However, I have never seen such a tyrannical evil art of death before. Perhaps this is because of the forbidden art that was left behind in the Eastern Heaven realm since the ancient times. Xiaoyin can only hold on for less than half a month. Lin Muyu smiled bitterly, his eyes slightly red. He and Shi Yan had the highest cultivation, so they could see through Qin Yin's situation the best. If there was no way to cure the poison within half a month, Qin Yin's heart would no longer be able to resist the invasion of the corpse poison from the outside world. Shi Yan glanced at him but couldn't help but worry in her heart. As expected, Lin Muyu still spoke. He stood up and asked, Feng Zhanlin, Ma Qilin, Feng Zhanhai, do any of you know where the corpse nurturing plains is? Lin General you. Feng Zhanlin couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Ma Qilin said, Lin General, the corpse nurturing plains is just a legend. No one knows where it is, and a place like the corpse nurturing plains, once you go, I'm afraid. Don't say any more. Lin Muyu clenched his fists and said, for Xiaoyin, even if it's a mountain of daggers or a sea of flames, I will still go. Otherwise, can I still be considered a man? Since you don't know, then stay in Dragon City and look after the house. I'll go alone. Chapter 1043. Don't be so reckless. Shi Yan stood up and said with a reproachful expression, this is not your problem alone. Xiaoyin is your Xiaoyin and she is also ours. Don't say that you don't know where the zombie breeding field is. Even if you know, there must be more monsters in a place that can turn Dongfang Yan into such a monster. You will die if you go alone. No, I want to go alone. I have made up my mind. Sister Xian, you don't have to persuade me. Lin Muyu's expression was indifferent. When she said these words, she was very calm. She did not seem to be boasting at all. What? Xian was very puzzled. Lin Muyu said softly, Xiao Yin's injury made me understand one thing. I have to bear the responsibility alone. Someone must go to the zombie breeding field, so it is better for me to go alone. I don't want Sister Xian or Xiao Shi to be injured again. If I go alone, there will be no worries or restraints. This is my path. If I don't go, it will be running away. A coward does not deserve to be a supreme being. As he said this, he slowly pulled out the Shenyuan sword and placed the blade in front of his chest. The golden light on the blade moved. Lin Muyu quietly looked at this divine weapon and said, the most important thing for a man is to be responsible. Please believe me. If I can go to the zombie breeding field alive, I can come back alive with the method to cure the poison. This is my path and I must walk it alone. Shi Yan suddenly hesitated. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were full of admiration and love. This was the Lin Muyu that she liked. Without this kind of momentum and confidence, she would not be him. So she said, then let Fuzhu go with you. Sister Xian and I will stay in Dragon City and wait for you to come back. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded heavily, it's a deal. Wait for me to come back. Shi Yan stood there in a daze. Crazy, they must all be crazy. Leaping out of the side hall, Lin Muyu went straight into another room. She didn't have much time to waste. After standing still, she immediately concentrated on meditating. A wisp of divine sense quickly pierced through the sky, heading towards the Eastern Heaven realm to search for the aura of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. In the vast starry sky, the spiritual mountains of the Eastern Heaven realm were scattered chaotically. It was not easy to find the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. This took Lin Muyu at least the time it took to burn a stick of incense to finish. When her spiritual sense went straight to the Eastern Heaven, it had already turned into an oracle. Whoosh. Under the golden light, Lin Muyu's body appeared in the hall of East Heaven. The 7 luminaries demon emperor who was giving out orders, was stunned. Oh, isn't this you? How did you find the time to look for me with the power of the oracle? At the side, dozens of God Emperor realm experts got down on one knee. Greetings, Commander Zhua. Lin Muyu raised her hand. Dispense with the formalities, please rise. Big brother, I have an urgent matter this time. Don't rush, speak slowly. Xiao stood beside the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Lin Muyu said, Xiaoyin is injured and has been poisoned by a kind of death evil art. She is unconscious. Mai and Shiyan's divine powers are unable to dispel this corpse poison. The creator of this corpse poison is in the corpse nurturing planes in the 64 domains. However, I can't find the location of the corpse nurturing planes, so I came to ask Xiao to use the northern heavenly wheel to find the location of the corpse nurturing planes for me. Corpse nurturing planes? Xiao frowned slightly. You got into big trouble in the secret realm. How did you offend the people in the corpse nurturing planes? You also know about the corpse nurturing planes? Yes, there is an old monster living in the corpse nurturing planes. He is proficient in the art of life and death. He has also cultivated countless undead monsters. It is very troublesome. What is the situation with Xiao Yin's corpse poison? I don't know either. That is why I need to go to the corpse nurturing planes and find the culprit before looking for a way to cure it. Do you need me to go to the ancient secret realm? Xiao asked. Lin Muyu frowned. If Sister Xiao wants to help me, then help me find the location of the corpse nurturing planes first. Then you can come. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be able to make it in time. The 7 luminaries demon emperor said, the corpse nurturing planes is not to be underestimated. You don't go to your death. I know it is dangerous, but I have to go. Lin Muyu spread her hands and smiled bitterly. Life and death are up to the heavens. It all depends on whether I have the luck. The 7 luminaries demon emperor narrowed his eyes. Looks like you have grown quite a bit in the ancient secret realm. Very good. Xiao used the north sky wheel. Help you find the corpse nurturing planes first. After you find the corpse nurturing planes, you can bring all the top-grade spiritual herbs in East Heaven to the ancient secret realm to see if they can be of help. Yes. Xiao nodded and clasped her hands together. When her hands separated, a dazzling light burst forth and condensed into a huge wheel. It was the north sky wheel. The corpse nurturing planes was a place of extreme ease among the 64 domains. The needle on the heaven wheel spun rapidly and finally stopped at a certain position. Xiao muttered to herself for a moment and said, you immediately return your spiritual sense to your position. I will immediately guide you. Okay. Lin Muyu quickly withdrew her spiritual sense. In the next moment, a ray of light suddenly blossomed in her mind and extended straight into the distance. It was the south of the 64 domains, even further south than Dragon City. It was about 1,000 miles away from Dragon City. At the same time, this position left a mark in Lin Muyu's mind that she could not erase. Creak. When she opened the door, Fuzhu, Fengzhan Lin, Fengzhan Hai, and the others were standing outside. Master, do you need little beast to go with you? Fuzhu asked. Yes. Lin Muyu's answer surprised Fuzhu. When we reach the corpse nurturing planes, keep watch outside for me. I can go in by myself. You can act according to the situation and be ready to support me. Yes, master. Fengzhan Lin frowned. Lin General, all right. Lin Muyu revealed a bright smile and patted Fengzhan Lin's shoulder. It's not like we will be separated forever. I will come back after I go. You guys guard Dragon City and wait for my return. Yes. Everyone cupped their fists together. Lin Muyu looked at Fuzhu. Let's go. We will head to the corpse nurturing planes as fast as we can. Master, your power has been reduced by almost 20% after using the divine oracle. I suggest you rest for half a day before you depart. It's fine. My power will be restored by the time we reach the corpse nurturing planes. Let's go as fast as we can. Yes. In the next moment, Lin Muyu took off from the ground and shot into the sky. A sonic boom suddenly appeared in the air, and her speed instantly exceeded the speed of sound. Fuzhu followed closely behind. The two figures disappeared into the sky of Dragon City in the blink of an eye. Fengzhan Lin and Mochi Lin looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Perhaps they could not understand Lin Muyu's realm. How much courage was required to head to a place like the corpse nurturing plains alone? The clouds obscured their vision, but Lin Muyu and Fuzhu relied on their spiritual sense to fly. They constantly changed their flight path to avoid the interweaving wind saws in the sky. Even god emperors had to minimize the friction with the wind saws. Otherwise it would be unwise to exhaust too much energy. In less than half a day they arrived at the southern border. Dense flames were swirling in the sky. It gave people the feeling that they had arrived at a flaming mountain. The flames did not look like the flames of the mortal world. They were more like flames that were soaked with the power of death. Lin Muyu suddenly stopped in the sky. It squinted its eyes to see through the flaming clouds and said, "Looks like we've arrived." Fuzhu said, "Those flames contain an extremely strong power of death. There are also very chaotic dimensional flows inside. It's not wise to break through from the sky. Master, I suggest you enter the corpse-nurturing planes from the ground." "Ground? I'm afraid it won't be easy." Lin Muyu smiled faintly and drew out the Xinyuan sword. She said, "Fuzhu, wait for me outside. Conceal yourself well and wait for me to come out." "Yes, master." After they landed on the ground, they arrived at a dead gray ground. It was desolate and dilapidated. Moreover, there was a faint smell of decay drifting in their nostrils. It was as if something had been rotting for many years but still hadn't completely decayed. It was extremely repulsive. Fuzhu stayed on the periphery while Lin Muyu advanced alone. Lin Muyu felt a little uneasy when her combat boots stepped on the rotten ground. This place did not belong to her, it belonged to death. A kind of domain power that was incompatible with the holy power of the sovereign persona naturally made Lin Muyu feel very uncomfortable. Whoosh! The golden airwave blew away the surrounding black mist. They could still faintly hear a sharp scream. It was a scream of disgust, fear and ruthlessness. Obviously, the thing in the corpse-nurturing planes was also very disgusted with the vast divine power that Lin Muyu carried. The corpse-nurturing planes was not a complete plane. Instead, it was a complex terrain where the plains and mountains intersected. The surrounding shrubs had long been withered for many years, but they had not turned into ashes. It was as if it never rained or winded here. After crossing a small hill and looking forward, they immediately felt a chill run down their spines. This was a place filled with corpses and bones. The ground was piled up with corpses of unknown origins. Flies were flying around and the stench was unbearable. Phew. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. She had no choice but to use her divine power to resist the invasion of the aura of death on her body. At the same time, she drew out the Xinyuan sword. Immediately, the vast divine power turned into a ray of golden light and dispersed towards the power of death. She slowly flew forward, sticking close to the ground. She spread out the spirit pulse technique and constantly detected the aura of the surroundings. Suddenly, a faint chaotic aura came from the spirit pulse technique. Something was coming. It seemed to be something hidden underground. Moreover, it came with ill intentions. The aura was violent and full of hatred. Rustle? Not far away, the soil was constantly churning. A visible underground track was moving straight towards Lin Muyu. Wasn't this attack a little too obvious? Damn it! Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. Divine power was generated under her feet. She stomped on the ground and shouted, "Get out!" Under the pressure of the divine power, an unruly roar came from underground, followed by a mass of flesh and blood pouncing out. It was a strange person covered with rotten flesh and blood. Perhaps it was not a human because Lin Muyu could not feel a trace of life from it. It was a dead thing that could move just like Dongfang Yen, just that its strength was not as strong as Dongfang Yen. "Get out of here." The Xinyuan sword swept out diagonally. The divine power turned into sword aura. Puff. The body of the monster exploded from the middle. Its internal organs and maggots were scattered on the ground. It was extremely disgusting. However, the broken body was actually wriggling slowly as if it wanted to be restitched. Sure enough, although it was of a lower level, it was still an immortal body just like Dongfang Yen. Of course, Lin Muyu could not use her spirit wheel to kill such a small fry. She raised her palm and flames flowed. She shouted in a low voice, "Turn into ashes, poor guy." Boom. Under the burning flames, the monster slowly turned into a pile of ashes. Under Lin Muyu's hand, a strong wind blew and the ashes scattered with the wind. It did not reassemble. It seemed that its strength was not as strong as Dongfang Yan's, so its rebirth ability was naturally different. This was good news. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.